I know there's no sound. I'm trying to fix it. I don't realize it because when I start talking, it sounds in my ear, so I apologize. I appreciate the laughter, though. I guess anything for a laugh. That's what I do. I'm gonna try and fix it. It's a different microphone, but it seems to be fucking up. But that's okay. Laugh away. It's a good idea. People need to be laughed at. Let me. Where am I gonna turn that off? Where am I gonna turn it off? Wait a minute. Oh, wait. Okay. Turn the radio on. Turn the radio up. Okay. Now I have my audio in the right spot. Yikes. Sorry about that. That happens though when you don't have a producer and you're doing this on your own, all alone, by yourself, figuring it out. So thank you so much. I'm really glad everybody had a good chuckle at my expense this morning. So thank you so much for sitting back and laughing at me. Really makes it all worthwhile. The movie I thought was, I kind of hope I want to see what people's reactions are to it who aren't like as aware of who these guys are. I know, Neil. Thank you. Um, I think if you're aware of who these guys are, it's harder to watch that movie with any kind of like uh humor. Like I didn't think that that movie was funny, and I'm just curious. I can't wait to hear like what my brothers and sisters, if they watch it. I don't know if they'll watch it or not, but if they watch it, because they're engaged with the news, they know exactly about this, you know, administration, all that kind of stuff, but they don't spend all their time on like Twitter or social media. So they don't get that inculcation of information. Yeah, it didn't know what tone it wanted to strike. That's a really good way of putting it. I don't think it was great. I'm sorry. I think they had an opportunity to do something and they just went for stupid spectacle, you know? Like, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm just like a little judgy when it comes to how how much I wish the viewing public realized what shitty people these are and that they actually have power over our lives to some degree. And I don't know, this made a joke out of it. Like spoiled little rich boys who would, I won't spoil it, but who want to, do anything to stay relevant. And so I guess from that, it's okay, Jane. Oh no, it's all right. It's fine. It was something else. Don't worry. Um, it was not you. It was not you. No, no, no. Yeah, don't feel bad. I don't think it was actually a great movie, Jane. I thought, no, it wasn't your emoji. It wasn't your emoji. Um, I thought that it was, I just think I think it tried to make a joke of like these guys are so ridiculous and so extreme, but in funny ways, through what we've read and just the fact that, I've met tech CEOs before. I know, like, I, I, I mean, I don't hang out with them, but it's not hard to be exposed to the way they talk about shit and stuff like that. If you're like in that, or like I was on the nonprofit side of that world, so I met them under different circumstances, but yeah, exactly. That the coming AI deepfakes could cause a lot of disruption was treated as only tangential, and the fact that the people who are in charge of like putting all that stuff out there have an unnatural amount of power, and I think that that also is something that I think people take for granted. I think it's really like the one guy is like, I'm going to be president of Argentina, and it's like, that's definitely funny, but that shit is happening in some, or at least at the nascent stages of something like that, where tech lords have way more power uh, within governments than they should. Oh, it's okay, Jane. Thanks. Yeah. So I don't think they can't all be winners. That's pretty much it. So that the coming yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. Compare the movie with the New Yorker piece on Curtis Yarvin. Different methods to put across a similar message, and that's true. And so yeah, about engagement seemed accurate. Yeah, there definitely were parts of it that seemed really accurate. Like I could hear that coming out of someone's mouth, kind of thing. But I think that if it were done, I don't know. I don't know how you would do it differently. And I'm sure that this group thought that they were doing like a serious treatise on the woes of tech edge lords. Um, so I don't know. I'm interested. I'm kind of interested in. Yeah, it wasn't a documentary. Uh, it. I'm kind of interested to hear how people who don't spend time on social media around these topics. I'm curious to see what they think. Maybe this was a great introduction to what is happening. Like I don't know, maybe, I don't maybe. The treatment J Rand's treatment of mold bugs portrait was great though the other night. Yes. Oh my god, yeah. J Rand J Rand's nailed it. So I think that's good. Um Oh my god, it's so warm. I would definitely, actually, Jane, especially given the fact that we pay attention to this stuff, I wouldn't not watch it because I think it's a good thing for people to watch so that when people in your life may mention it, you can talk about it in terms of, well, this, that, and the other thing, kind of thing. So actually, that might be pretty good. That might be pretty good. I could see that. I could see that as being really good. Yeah, hang that in the Louvre. Yeah. Anyway, it's true. So good morning. What I said before I was not online. Good morning. Actually, it's good that you didn't hear me this morning because I was singing Lisa Loeb, and I'm like, why am I singing Lisa Loeb? I don't even like Lisa Loeb, but I felt like singing it. So you probably missed a bullet. I mean, to sing a stupid song. Mm. So, a couple things this morning that I want to deal with. First of all, the Dutch government also is having a little bit of trouble, right? They're having a little problem this morning. Um, so I want to talk about not talk about it, but I want to show you something about that. And then the other thing is I really want to talk about, like, I don't know if yesterday was it yesterday? Yeah, exactly. Was it yesterday that Tammy Faye Rumsfeld came out and did her State Department thing? I think it was yesterday. It was absolutely terrible. Tammy Faye Rumsfeld, that's not her name. Her name is Tammy Bruce, but I call her Tammy Faye Rumsfeld because like a she's like what's that neighbor in Bewitched? Like Ethel Kravitz or something? Mrs. Kravitz. And she just seems like that. She's got one of those and this is not like not everybody with a pointy nose like that has a terrible personality, but it seems to suit her. This kind of pointed upward nose, almost like the wig political cartoons of old, where they kind of exaggerated features, and they, like she has a pointy nose, but like your nostrils are showing. I don't know how to describe it, but it's kind of like those old timey political cartoons. She reminds me of a character out of one of those. That's what I think. And so yesterday she was talking about the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which she said was founded by. This is one I really want to start looking into. And probably you guys have already know the deal, but I don't know the deal. Humanitarian Foundation. Okay, here we go. I just want to know who the fuck, because they halted food deliveries today. Yeah, she has Disney witch eyebrows. Yes, and in a bad way, right? Like one of the ugly witches, because they're not all ugly. And she's very flip. And I think that if you're going to be the spokesperson for the State Department, that have to you have to hear like you have to approach it with gravitas. And this woman has zero gravitas. She takes every question as if it's a challenge to her own, existence, and is very flip with people's lives. I feel like she's a really awful person in real life. Like her and I would not get along. Which, by the way, if I turn the mirror on people sometimes and show them what they are, that's not me being mean. That's me acting with integrity, because that's what I do. Even if you notice when I hang out with One Eye or anyone, Pam, I will speak truth to power. I will tell them what I think. I don't have to be an asshole all the time, but most of the time I can be. But I am not the drama. I am reflecting what people are putting out in the world in that case. And so I'm not going to suck your dick. I'm going to tell you what I need to tell you, and then you can choose to either listen to it or move on. I don't care. I don't care. She has a terrible background, actually, Neil. She had a she had a partner who was murdered, I guess, or killed, or maybe committed suicide. Forgive me. She might have died by suicide. But she has a very tragic background. So I don't begrudge Tammy Faye Rumsfeld her tragic background. But I also want to say this. I know a lot of people who have had violent murders of loved ones in their lives, and they don't become radical assholes. They still have empathy for others, and they still have a sense of what justice is and other things. And Tammy Faye Rumsfeld does not. So I am sorry for her loss, but get the fuck over yourself, because you have a job to do. And I'm going to play right now what she's trying to sell us as some kind of bullshit, you know, she's just gross. Oh my God. She's like one of the grossest people in the administration. And that's saying a lot. One of the reasons I eased away from chud trolling, it was starting to feel like punching down on the cognitively impaired. Sometimes. Sometimes. I do it just for fun sometimes. I did it yesterday. I do it for fun when I want to. Let me see. What am I doing? Oh, I'm doing that. Okay. Hey, you're too big. You're too big. You're too big. You're too big. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So this is the Wick and Bick. This is the one I want to play first. All right, this is about the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation that is supposedly has taken over from the UN. From the UN, the food distribution in Gaza, the aid distribution. Well, they shut it down this morning because violence. Um, but again, not for nothing, but I have worked, as some of you have, alongside UN workers in developing countries. I happen to be in Liberia, a little bit in Haiti. And so I've seen UN workers on the ground, and you can have complaints about UN occupying forces and all that kind of stuff. You can have total complaints about that. But I'm going to tell you one thing. The UN in Liberia, for example, definitely kept violence at bay because they were the only ones with guns. And I understand that sounds weird, but I'm going to tell you right now, with my personal experience with the Liberian police force, if they had had weapons, it would be a whole different country. And not just because, everybody's lawless. They're not. That's not the point. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say the police act with impunity already without guns. And I don't know what the psychological thing is when you become a police officer, but I think there's something about becoming a police officer and being handed that accountability that gives you a license, to be a jerk. And the Liberian police are no joke, but they're not armed. And it makes a huge difference. So, you can have complaints about the UN, and I have plenty. I have complaints about USAID too. But to take away aid delivery from the UN forces or the UN people in, oh yeah, actually, exactly. Yeah, Zaire, the police who were soldiers would shake you down for a bribe on the slightest. Yeah, I mean, I literally ran checkpoints in Liberia just because I knew that if we stopped at that checkpoint, we would be there forever. And if not, I never thought anything really dangerous would happen in Liberia, but the hassle was enough to say, oh no, we just have to run the checkpoint late at night. So, I'm going to tell you right now, I get it. I get that the UN is problematic. Every force is problematic in and of itself. But right now, the group that has taken over for the UN in delivering aid into Gaza are begging for more attention. So this is from this morning, from Deutsche Welt News, German news, and it's an update on the delivering aid into Gaza. Hi, Muskie, how are you? Good morning. Good morning. Achetez-moi une bière. Just give me
aid to Gazans has suspended food distribution after dozens of people seeking aid were shot to death in recent days. Israel's army has called the roads leading to the group's distribution centers, quote, combat zones, and warned people not to travel on them. The U.S. has warned of potential war crimes. Now, the private aid group, which is backed by Israel and the United States, is urging Israel to boost safety for civilians. It said the sites will be closed for upgrades, reorganization, and operational efficiency improvements, and that entry is strictly prohibited. It said its operations will resume on Thursday and urged people to stay updated and adhere to guidelines. For more, I'm joined now by DW correspondent Emily Gordine in Jerusalem. Emily, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has suspended aid for now. What more can you tell us about that?
Well, this comes after on Sunday the founding director, Jake Wood, also resigned from his position, saying that it would not be possible for the group to deliver aid, quote, while also strictly adhering to the humanitarian principles of humanity, neutrality, impartiality and independence. This obviously comes after several incidents of fatal attacks on Palestinians who were trying to reach this aid. Now, you might wonder, how did we get here? Now, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation was essentially established in an effort by Israel to sidestep the UN, which was previously responsible for distributing aid across the Gaza Strip. Now, why did they do that? Well, Israel claimed that the UN let aid fall into the hands of Hamas. They didn't deliver any evidence to that, and the UN, for its part, has criticized this new mechanism under the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, saying because it essentially uses armed private military or private security contractors, to deliver aid to compounds that are guarded by the Israeli military. And you also have to keep in mind that these compounds are only in 4 locations so far. And Gaza has been under a blockade for about 11 weeks now. People who live there are emaciated, they are hungry, and they are expected to walk for miles on end to reach these compounds to get that aid. Whereas in the past, under the UN would just deliver aid to the communities directly. So there's been a lot of criticism of this Gaza Humanitarian Foundation in the past. But I think the bottom line here, and I think it's very important to stress this here, that Israel now controls large parts of the Gaza Strip. It controls what goes in and what goes out. It is essentially an occupying power here. And as such, under international humanitarian law, it is responsible to meet the humanitarian needs on the ground. And at this point, it isn't. It tried to turn to a private company to do this. This company seems to be failing. And the question is now, how will the people of Gaza get the aid that they so desperately need?
Yeah. There have also been reports about an attack on a school this morning in South Gaza. Give us more details about these latest attacks, please.
That's right. Israeli strikes this morning killed about 18 people that were sheltering in a school, among them women and children. Now, Israel has not immediately responded to this incident, but it has said in the past that it is fighting in Gaza to return the hostages that are still being kept by Hamas in Gaza. But I think it's also important to stress here that I have been speaking to rights organizations in Israel, most notably Breaking the Silence, which is an anti-occupation rights organization, and they have said that Israel, in its war in Gaza, has loosened its rules of engagement, and that is also one reason for why we are seeing so many civilian casualties. Now, we are still waiting to hear more on possible ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas. They have so far stalled because ultimately Israel is refusing to end the war permanently.
That's DW's Emily Gordine in Jerusalem. Thanks so much for that.
So there you go. Peace, love. Yeah, so there you go. So I want to look into this Gaza Humanitarian Foundation a little bit more, just understand who the players are. I'm curious about this Jake Wood character who decided to fuck off and leave the organization. I just want to find out what the story is. And I'm curious because we read about the private contractors that are used for checkpoints. I'm curious if the security forces that are failing, which is what she just reported on, the security forces helping provide or protect the food distribution process are failing. I'm curious to know, who are those people? Are they the same people we talked about from January? So, yeah, so this is why I'm an asshole. The reason I'm an asshole is because I see so much on YouTube about so-and-so had my name in their mouth and so and so is a hag and so deserves to have some kind of child protective services or adult protective services sent to their home because we just don't like them. When I see stuff like that, or you're just going back and forth with KFAB between people, it makes me mad. It makes me mad that my show has 11 viewers when we're talking about. I'm gonna get mad. I'm sorry. Just let me get through it, and then I'll be a normal person. I promise. But this is the part that gets under my skin, because I sit there and see show after show after show, and I get it. Like, it's fun to watch people lose their shit, or it's fun to watch people fight with each other, or it's fun to watch people yell at each other. But I see so much of that and so little of, like, people using their platform to do something. And of course, I enjoy this part. I enjoy the news. I enjoy understanding what's happening and digging deep. That's my thing. I get it. But you have to understand, like, that is so frustrating to keep doing this. I've done this now for over 3 years. Over 3 years. And I've tried to just work my way through, what am I going to present? What am I going to present? And I know it's not like you're not coming here for breaking news or anything like that, but you're coming here for a smart community. Like, God, you guys are just like the most amazing community in chat. I just am blown away by the people that have come around. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna tell you, sometimes it really gets under your fucking skin. Like, like all the hate that is on YouTube with these bitchy people that just have nothing going on in their lives except for, the next YouTube fight, or, you know, getting on top of or just going after people who don't mean anything, like other chuds and shit. They don't mean anything. They don't have anything to do. But there are entire channels that are devoted to just sitting there and picking apart people or tearing them down. And I don't even like the people that they're going after, but I still wouldn't spend my fucking entire online existence doing that. And some of you hang out with people that fucking spend their time doing that and give them grace. That's the part that blows me away. I pointed out early on the people who literally betrayed me, doxed my daughter. And now I see those same fucking people getting welcomed in other communities. And what they spend their time on is sitting on panels shitting on other people. That's all they do. And I'm all for one holding up a mirror and trolling the fuck out of people. The trolls, some of the trolls are fantastic at it. Yeah, but I think they're great. Holding up a mirror to people who are bigots and horrible people, I do it all the time. I do it all the time. No, peace, love. But I'm going to tell you, it gets a girl weary. Not that, it's like, I mean, I guess the problem is it doesn't matter. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you're giving grace to people who have already been pointed out as people who literally stalk and go after people, and let me tell you, some of the people that you think are just normal trolls, I'm not talking about Troll Central, okay? So don't get it twisted. But there are people out there. Well, you know what, butterflies? I wish you did know. I wish you did. Because I thought I made it pretty fucking clear who got on me. But of course, that person has now since threatened to sue me if I talk about them anymore. So I'm not going to talk about them anymore. Because that's what they do. I will tell you, butterflies. But I made it pretty fucking clear. And now I see those same people coming back and getting embraced. And I'm like, fuck you. Fuck you. Not only am I trying to do something with my platform, I have to put up with that shit of people normalizing other people who are goddamn fucking stalkers. Really disappointing. Really disappointing. I mean, I want those people to just expose themselves. I don't think I should run around saying, did you know so-and-so did this and so? I said my piece. But it just galls me sometimes. It just galls me. But here we are. And I mean, I can't not do this because I love doing this. And I'm going to watch the news anyway. So I might as well turn on the camera and make a joke. But I'm going to tell you, it fucking wears you down. Wears you down. I don't know. Maybe I need to have more KFAB. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Because even the KFAB is boring. Even the KFAB is boring. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So know your customer, okay? Know who you're supporting. Know who you're giving grace to. Just that's all I'm going to say. Just know. Don't take everybody at face value. I have principles. That's why I act the way I do with chuds. Is because I can't kiki like that with chuds. I can only hold up a mirror to them. And yes, Nut Liquor is testifying, and we are going to watch it. Blah. Anyway, sorry. I just, it gets to a point where you're like, really? Really? Why am I doing this? That's why. I mean, you kind of just go, why am I even bothering? But that's the way the internet works. So, whatever. Hi, Lee. Did you land? Are you home? No, you're abroad. You're in Montreal. Montreal, just popping in to say I've arrived in Montreal. Hope everyone is well. Time to talk tariffs. That's right. I hope you have a good day of meetings. Yeah. Anyway, welcome everybody. Yeah, it is good to steer clear of that. It's such a waste of energy. I've been moving Mike from PA and Hassan Zateo. Oh, I haven't heard of them. Interesting. I like it, Muskie. Good for you. Don't tell anyone. They'll fucking follow you. I don't know. Wham. I'm in a whiny mood this morning, I guess. Probably because not every channel is talking about this. Okay, because other people spend their time talking about stupid, useless hags, but don't talk about this stuff. And they certainly don't get out in the street and do stuff. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Nailed it. All right. Anyway, care more. Care more. Spend your time doing something worthwhile. The fuck? What the fuck's wrong with you? What exactly the fuck is wrong with you? Okay, let me find my Howard Nut Liquor. La la la. Really want to look into that group, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, but we're gonna have to do that another time. I'll do that off screen. Let me find on YouTube. Oh my God! Do you guys wait? What time is it? Oh shoot! It's 7:08. I gotta go to the other one. Oh man. Department of Defense. What? Okay, here we go. Nut Liquor.
Respond to virtually all committee inquiries, at least on the Democratic side. Letters I've sent. I sent you 2 letters, Mr. Secretary, in addition to the joint letter I sent you with the chairman.
I don't know
our
where
staff
else to pull
has
this
sent
from,
multiple inquiries, and I'll have some questions
this
about
is the Commerce,
the lack of responsiveness going forward. This is, in my
Senate
view,
Appropriations Committee. It's
unacceptable,
about
and
the
I think it should
2026
be
budget.
unacceptable to people on both sides of the aisle. And it's in this context that we're now taking up the fiscal year 2026 appropriations bill. And I've discussed with the chairman of the subcommittee, and I know that Senator Murray has talked with Senator Collins as an appropriations committee.
But there's a point
we've got
when
to
you're
figure out
enabling
how,
people
when
who are
we
actually
appropriate
like
resources for certain purposes,
abusers,
that those are complied with.
And
let
I'm
me just say
of one
that
of them.
beyond
Okay, I'm
the
scared
issue
of, one of, them.
of the numbers and the budget, this does come down to people.
Who's
One
that
such
count for?
person is Carrie. She's a mom and a homeowner who lives in Maryland. She's a federal employee who worked at the Department of Commerce. She was proud of her mission She worked to implement the CHIPS and Science Act, promoting domestic semiconductor manufacturing, supporting good-paying jobs. She received the so-called fork email offering her money to quit her job. She said, "I don't need to take that because I think I'm contributing." Earlier this year, she was on medical leave to recover following a major spinal surgery. She then, a few days later, received the message to tell everybody what 5 things she'd done during the week. Her husband said, "Don't focus on that, focus on your recovery." Instead, she worked from bed. Days later, she was fired. Then a judge ordered her and other employees to be reinstated, only for her to be fired again. Making matters worse, not only was her health insurance canceled, but it was also retroactively backdated, meaning she had to pay for the surgery and medication out of pocket. One prescription alone cost her $2,500. She said, and I quote, "Right now I'm working off faith.
I always forget
We have
his
kids,
name.
we have
He
a
did.
mortgage, car payments. I don't know what we're going to do." Mr. Secretary, this is no way to treat
Always escapes
patriotic
me.
federal employees who are doing the work for our country. And I look forward to today's hearing and the questions that will be posed from people on both sides of the aisle. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Van Hollen. Mr. Secretary, as I welcomed you earlier, we now look forward to your
Damn it,
testimony.
Van
and you may
Hollen.
begin.
Sure. Thank you. And thank you all the members of this committee for having me here today. I very much appreciate coming to visit with you. Chairman Moran, Ranking Member Van Hollen, and members of the subcommittee, it's an honor for me to join you today. America is once again the most attractive destination for investment in the world. Under President Trump's leadership, the Department of Commerce is strengthening American industry from those that are the most popular to those industries that have been long ignored. We are focused on building in America and driving our economic growth. We will narrow the deficit of this country, both the trade deficit and our budget deficit, and we will deliver a new era of American innovation. Businesses are no longer looking overseas. They are choosing to invest in America first. Through the President's executive order establishing the Investment Accelerator, the Department of Commerce has already secured trillions of dollars in new commitments from world-class companies and sovereign wealth funds eager to build and
Talk about
invest
it, Nutlicker.
here in the United States of America. This surge in investment,
Not
paired
necessarily.
with renewed
No,
commitment to
not
fair
necessarily,
and reciprocal
Max.
trade, is
Holding up a mirror to
reigniting
people
American
is different.
manufacturing. We are bringing car manufacturing
That's what I was
back
doing.
to Michigan and Ohio. We are reopening steel mills in Pennsylvania. Just last month, I went out to Arizona and welcomed the largest semiconductor investment in the history of
They
the
don't get
United States
grace
of
because of
America,
that.
$165 billion,
different situation.
thanks to an investment of TSMC.
It's also a different level of trolling.
With respect to CHIPS deals, we are improving those commitments to more than $300
Beasley.
billion,
Beasley.
doubling the
Yeah.
previous investment of those companies receiving CHIPS Act awards without costing the United
Sorry,
States
Teresa, I'm in a
taxpayer
pissy mood this
a
morning.
single
I'm sorry. I
additional
apologize.
dollar. Our Commerce Department is driving substantial investments across America. Critically, the President's America First agenda goes beyond just economic growth and investment. The President is taking concrete actions to protect American workers and our national security. Under Section 232, the Commerce Department is conducting numerous investigations to protect, to reshore, and revive manufacturing capacity across our critical industries here in America. The Trump administration is imposing tariffs and ending loopholes. In April, we ended the de minimis loophole, which allowed foreign companies to avoid paying tariffs to ship small shipments into America, completely undercutting and
He's proud of
undermining
that.
American small businesses. New export control.
He's proud of that. He's talking about all of us, all the people who order something that comes from China. All the people. You order something from Temu. I don't use Temu or Shein or any of those, but if you do, he's talking about you. And there was an exception so that you and me didn't have to pay extra to get items shipped from China, etc. But now he's really proud of the fact that he got rid of that exemption. I mean, do you get it yet? Because they're just telling you what they're doing, and it's happening, and there are people who act like it's not happening. Really? Wake up, chuds.
Controls are protecting cutting-edge technologies and finally protecting critical industries and American innovation. In fact, the Bureau of Industry and Security, working with our partners in the Department of Justice, secured 22 criminal convictions, 32 arrests, 38 indictments, 231 detentions. We've seized goods of $185.5 million and additional seizures of another $40 million. Under this administration, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office is tackling a mountain of unexamined patent applications left by the Biden administration, over 800,000.
A little too much off.
And we're successfully reducing the backlog for the first time in 4 years.
Well, I always
in the
look like a
past
clown,
4 months
but
alone, we've removed
especially clown-like these days.
50,000 fraudulent goods and services from the trademark register that blocks the legitimate use of American businesses. Many of these purported trademarks come from what they call a specimen farm, which is basically a fake website produced by AI, producing fake products that aren't really for sale. And we ended them. At NOAA, we are transforming how we track storms and forecast weather with cutting-edge technology. But remember, not cutting any instruments or data. We're adding. We're improving the understanding and prediction of how hurricanes intensify. This season, NOAA's research centers will deploy new small aircraft drone systems and additional underwater gliders. This year, the National Weather Service will be running experimental AI-based forecast systems, and all data will be publicly available.
Okay, all right, so this is one of the things that I want to point out when it happens, and I might be overreacting, so feel free to tell me I'm overreacting, but my reaction to what he just said was that there are blah, 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 blah weather run by AI. Does that give anyone kind of pause about the role of AI within and the role of AI at this point in AI's in history, which if you listen to podcasts about from like AI developers and like the leaders of companies, which I do, if you listen to them, they even admit that their AI is not generative AI. It's not, it's not smart enough, basically. And what he is telling us is that certain operations that might, I guess, have been done by humans, I don't really know the inner workings of NOAA or any of that. But what I just heard is that AI is going to be the great savior of weather prediction and forecast. I'm not, what? It's going to be one of those days, isn't it? Fuck.
Together, this commitment to innovation means earlier warnings and increased accuracy for Americans no matter where they live. For far too long, America has not protected its workers and its industry. Thanks to President Trump and this administration's efforts, we are reversing this trend. We are reshoring critical manufacturing. We are eliminating unfair trade barriers and practices.
No, you're not.
We're investing in our American workforce, and with your help, we will continue to deliver growth and prosperity to Americans.
You're not,
Thank
though.
you for that.
You're not, Blanche.
Secretary, thank you. I recognize now the chairman of the full committee, Senator Collins.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, welcome. It's great to see you here today. It probably won't surprise you, given the many discussions we've had about the lobster industry, that I'm going to start with my first question on that. Maine's lobster industry, as you know, is so important to the economy of Maine.
And to me as well. I love lobster.
And I've always known that. And it represents Maine. It's really an iconic industry for us of hardworking people that sustain many of our coastal communities. In 2022, the Biden administration proposed regulations that posed a threat to the very existence of the lobster fishery. If implemented, it would have shut down the lobster industry. The Maine delegation worked as a team,
Fuck you,
and we were
Susan.
able to successfully block those regulations and prevent them from going into effect for a period of years. Subsequently, the Maine Lobstermen's Association sued the National Department the National Marine Fisheries Services in the Department of Commerce, and overwhelmingly won the case in June of 2023. And I want to read you just a little bit of what the judge said, what the three-court panel said in its decision. It said that the service had relied upon worst-case modeling that was, quote, very likely wrong, based on assumptions that the service conceded that it did not believe were accurate. Projections that are very likely wrong, obviously are not likely to occur. And what the court found was that the service acted in an arbitrary and capricious way and blocked the regulations from going forward. But obviously, it's costly to go to court and to do that. So, Mr. Secretary, I know there's a new executive order that attempts to establish much higher standards for scientific research. It emphasizes rigorous evidence-based methodologies to inform federal regulations. Can you talk to us about how you believe that this new approach to regulation based in science will help protect the Maine fishing industry and our lobster industry from arbitrary and capricious regulations, as the court found was done in the previous administration?
This administration views the Maine lobster industry as an American treasure, and we need to protect it. And you will see as we do our trade deals, right? They treat the Maine lobster industry horribly. And in the UK deal, they said, we will invite you to 10 Downing Street and we will have now a lobster dinner. Okay, so we've opened, for example, the UK to lobster. We think this capricious lack of rigor in our science has got to end. So the gold standard executive order saying only real science, not opinion-based science, has to be the rule. So we protect our fishermen, we protect our ranchers, right? These are key things that this administration is going to drive for. So I completely agree with you. We will protect the great Maine lobster industry because it is a treasure for America.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. We've also talked about how integrated the Maine economy is with Canada. And Canada's our closest neighbor, our dear friend, and our largest trading partner. And so I have been very concerned, and I know the department and you personally are working very hard on this issue about tariffs on Canadian products. Our lobster, our potatoes, our blueberries are largely processed in Canada and then come back across the border. We have a paper mill in northern Maine, in Madawaska, Maine, whose sister mill is right across the river in Canada. The sister mill in Canada produces the pulp that is piped across the river to the paper mill in Madawaska, Maine. So that's how close the partnership is. 95,000 Mainers are not connected to the New England electric grid. They get their electricity from Canada. I'm just mentioned these examples. 95% of our refined petroleum products come from Canada. 90% of potash, which is used, the
Isn't your
fertilizer
time
for
done, bitch?
potatoes, comes from Canada.
God damn.
Just to give you a few examples
Shut
of how
up.
integrated our approach is, could you give me a brief update on where we stand with Canadian tariffs?
Sure. So the overriding principle is USMCA. So if the products are actually made in Canada and actually made in the United States, they come back and forth, and it's easy for them to fall under the USMCA, and that has no tariff. No tariff. Things that are outside of that, where companies chose to be outside of those rules, and those rules, as you know, have been in place quite a long time. If they're outside of those rules, then they have a tariff on them. They have the fentanyl tariffs, right? Because we needed to close the border and make sure fentanyl was not coming into the country. And people say, oh, Canada doesn't do much in fentanyl. But if you look at the fentanyl rings in Canada, they're often manned by Mexican cartels. So we needed to shut that. And so those outside of USMCA do pay a tariff, but those inside of USMCA are free of tariff.
Thank you. If you would provide us with a list of which products
know?
are under USMCA, that
You
would
don't
be
know,
very helpful
Susan?
to us. I
It's
believe
so
that a
important
lot
to
of the
you that you have
cases
no
that I've
access to
mentioned
that data?
will be
Have you not
under
been
the
tracking it?
USMCA
Correct.
and thus exempt
wrong with
from
you?
the tariff. But it would be good to have some certainty in that area. So if we could work with you and your staff to try to get a more definitive list, that would be very
Sure, that primarily comes from USTR, but I will call them and I will have it to you.
Yeah,
Thank
I'll
you
do
so
anything for
much.
you, Susan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Collins, thank you very much. Senator Van Hollen.
Thank you. So, Mr. Secretary, I mentioned in my opening comments the RIF plans. On February 11th, President Trump signed an executive order requiring agency heads to plan,
it
quote,
potash?
large-scale reductions in force, known as RIFs, and agency reorganization plans. On March 27th, Senator Moran and I sent you a letter requesting that you send us the plans the department submitted to the White House. It's now June 4th. We've not received a response. We're in the middle of a budget hearing. First of all, you would agree, would you not, that your reorganization plans are relevant to the committee's consideration of the budget?
I think our proposal for the budget is clear, so I think it takes those things into account.
Mr. Secretary, let me ask you this. Are you going to provide us with the reorganization plan, and when?
I will certainly get together with the department, and we will consider what information we can give you that makes sense. But I'm happy to work with you.
Excuse me?
Offline if you'd like.
You have oversight,
Mr.
bitch.
Secretary, you're aware of the fact that
have
a
oversight.
federal district court ruled that the RIF plans proposed by the Trump administration could not go forward because the judge stated that, quote, agencies may not conduct large-scale reorganizations and reductions in force in blatant disregard of Congress's mandates, and a president may not initiate large-scale executive branch reorganization without partnering with Congress. That decision was upheld by an appellate court just a few days ago. I'm not asking you to opine on that legal decision. I'm simply asking you to provide the committee with the reorganization plan, and your response is maybe yes, maybe no. Am I getting that right? I mean, are you going to provide the plan to the this committee as we review the budget for the upcoming year?
Well, we at the department are going to follow the law. That, of course, is what we're going to do.
Well, the law actually does require that you submit these major changes to the Senate. Let me ask you this. I mentioned in my opening statement the fact that I'd sent a number of letters to you. Our staff has actually sent inquiries to your team. I have a lot of questions today, but they'll be a lot longer unless I can get a commitment that you and your team will respond to the inquiries we've made. These are simple questions. They don't, and I'll set aside for now the RIF plan. And Mr. Chairman, I would ask unanimous consent to submit to the record the letters that I've sent to the Secretary and the staff inquiries that my team has made.
Without objection.
Mr. Secretary, will you agree, say, within a week to get responses to these inquiries?
I can easily agree that I will go through your letters, and to the extent I can answer them, I will happily answer you within a week.
What?
When you say?
I don't know what the letters
This is
say
an
as I sit
oversight
here right
question.
now.
You haven't
Well,
read them?
okay, Mr. Secretary, their question. I'll read through some of them later in the hearing. We can go through them one by one. They're pretty straightforward, simple questions about the implications of the department's actions on certain programs. Let me turn to the National Weather Service for a moment, because as you know, originally 600 staff were eliminated from the National Weather Service. Then all of a sudden, it seems the department realized that this was not really a good idea, as many weather stations around the country, and the chairman referenced some of them, said they couldn't be staffed full-time. We have a headline from just May 15th, Washington Post: NOAA scrambles to fill forecasting jobs as hurricane season looms. I know that we're scrambling to try and rehire about 100 or hire 126 people, but Mr. Secretary, it's my understanding that as of today, offices in Kansas, Alaska, and Oregon are no longer operating 24 hours a day. Is that accurate?
The department employs 2,100 meteorologists and hundreds of other forecasters, okay? This is less than 5%. We are fully staffed. There are no openings on the National Hurricane Center, zero. It is fully staffed. We are fully ready for hurricane season, and our meteorologists
Mr. Secretary,
are fully staffed.
you did not answer
Fully staffed.
You did not answer the direct question about whether those weather offices are open full-time, and it's obvious that you all made a huge mistake. I mean, you've acknowledged it by, having to rehire 126 people. But can you just comment on whether or not those offices I mentioned are operating 24
We have
hours a
not
day?
made a huge mistake. I did not say such a thing.
I didn't say you did. It's pretty obvious from the actions. I will, as I said, you fired
News
600,
report
you're
was
rehiring.
inaccurate, obviously.
There you go, Karen.
Obviously.
Obviously.
We're happy to follow up, and you can provide the facts.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Secretary, in Kansas, we have lots of manufacturers, and the aviation and aerospace industry is a significant component of that. That industry has a very positive trade balance, perhaps the best in our country.
Fantastic.
And I wonder how the Department of Commerce is going to act to protect that trade surplus as you have negotiations with other countries for trade agreements. There's a 0 tariff provision on aerospace parts and tools. Is that something that you would continue under the 1979 agreement in the aviation aerospace industry? Is that something you will pursue in trying to maintain so that trade balance continues to be such a positive for our nation?
Our nation's aircraft business is, as you correctly say, a fantastic asset of our country, one of the great exports of our country, and we are going to protect it. So we have a 232 in the Commerce Department, but we do expect, as we did with the UK, we negotiated a 0 tariff with them, and I would expect if other countries play ball with us, that I would expect that's an offer we make, provided they're buying our aircraft. Remember, in exchange for us doing a 0 tariff, I mean, think of Donald Trump.
Yeah,
he
don't
then
worry
gets
about it.
an agreement by British Airways to buy $10 billion. They were competing with Airbus, and in part of that agreement, they committed to buying Boeing aircraft of $10 billion. That's exactly the way the Trump administration thinks about these kind of
Something is up with
negotiations.
Boeing.
Make sure it wins,
You
for American
understand? Something
industry.
is up with Boeing.
You mentioned Section
They're at the
232.
center of every dirty deal.
Dealing with aircraft and jet engines in particular. The comment period expired, I think, yesterday. What do you expect to
Are they
occur
bidding?
next?
Is Boeing
Well, we
bidding
expect
for
by
these?
probably by the end of the month, we'll have an
questions.
analysis, and we'll set the standard for aircraft part tariffs. We're going to discuss it with the president. We'll discuss the analysis, and we will take due consideration on what to do. But the key is to protect our industry and make sure those who trade with us treat us fairly. And I think we will use these tools to the betterment of American industry.
In the aircraft and aviation aerospace industry, there are certainly large companies. You mentioned Boeing as a particular player in that field, but that's true in Kansas. We have some large companies who manufacture aircraft and aircraft parts, but there's also a lot of mom and pop manufacturers, small businesses are in that arena. And one of the ways we've been able to help those small manufacturers, aviation and otherwise, is the Hollings Manufacturer Extension Partnership Program that we refer to as MEP. I've heard from manufacturers in Kansas about the importance of that program, and I'm interested in
dog
knowing, it doesn't
pool,
appear
that's
that it's
so
going to be
cute.
funded by what in your budget, or it's not going to be funded by, not going to be requesting funding. How does the department intend to replace the manufacturer's assistance that comes from MEP to make sure that our small manufacturers have the best access to technology and techniques to compete with the larger companies who sometimes dominate manufacturing?
That sounds so fun.
Programs that were set up by the Department of Commerce decades ago to assist in technology for manufacturing tend to be outdated. The new technology is AI-driven, automated. I think we need to re-examine.
All right, I'm going to point it out again. He said it again. Okay? I'm just saying. Watch this space.
And retool a whole variety of these programs so that we are able to provide the best technological assistance rather than just continuing a program that's decades and decades old. So I'm very focused, and our department is very focused on making sure we're bringing our manufacturers the best tools, and we're examining them. And we will do that. And you know, you have a great plant for Panasonic in Kansas. It's fantastic, and that's exactly the kind
That's a good
of
question,
manufacturing we
Slow.
hope to reshore to America.
Thank you. Thank you for knowing about the presence of Panasonic in Kansas and its value to our state and to the country. I'm going to conclude my questions and next turn to Senator Kennedy. But I hope your budget that we will
Kennedy?
see, I hope in the near future, it shows us the path that
supposed
you
to go
intend to take
back
to
and
make
forth.
certain that the latest technologies are available to small manufacturers.
Yeah. There is
Senator
still
Kennedy.
Panasonic.
Oh, yes, it is. Senator Reed, I'm sorry, I spent time with you on the Senate floor
Yeah.
yesterday and overlooked you today.
Get the fuck out of here, whatever your name is.
Not intentionally. Senator Reed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. We've all been talking about bottlenecks, in fact, in the department and elsewhere throughout the government. In fact, last month, Senator Cruz warned about the growing backlog of contracts awaiting approval at the Department of Congress.
I haven't seen
He
that.
warned that NOAA alone has 5,700 contracts set to expire this year.
Really, Jim?
And it's
Oops.
been reported in the press that you are insisting on personally reviewing every Commerce contract over $100,000?
That is true.
Well, that seems to be something that is not particularly efficient, and that results in the 5,700 contracts just in NOAA. So, again, if you can't find reliable support to do those reviews, I think you're wasting your time, frankly.
So I am tasked with the responsibility of my department, and contracts over $100,000 should be reviewed by the secretary. Now, I may have more energy and more time, and if you drive by
What?
the Department of Commerce late at night, you're going to see our lights on because I'm going through it.
Why?
I do it with my team. I do it with the people who run the bureaus, and I teach them how to analyze contracts, not to push forward
What?
what was
You're
done
a
before.
real
And I'll give
estate
you one quick
idiot.
example. They come to me with planes, hurricane
You're
hunters.
nothing,
And
Howard.
they said there were $672 million.
You're a
I
fucking
said, wow,
con man.
how many planes do we get? We get two planes? Wow. Can I see the plane, please? Just show me a picture of the plane we're going to. And they show me this picture of a plane.
This
And
is
you remember old
an
planes? They had like
actual
mullions
member
and
of the
the windscreen.
presidential
And they
cabinet.
show me that, 3 propellers on each side. And I said, my God, when was this plane new? They said, no, you're buying a new plane. I said, no, when was the first one?
Excuse me, Mr. Secretary.
1955.
This is
Excuse me, Mr.
ridiculous.
Secretary.
These things have
You're
to stop.
talking about a $600 million acquisition. That's
Correct.
a lot more than a $100,000 contract to do something like cleaning in the buildings that you occupy.
Oh,
And
we cancel huge numbers of absurd contracts for software nobody uses. I said, how many people use this software? 0. These are waste,
Excuse me.
these are
is so
fraud, or these are
embarrassing.
abuse, and it's my job
How
to
many
teach my
CEOs?
staff.
How many CEOs of companies, major companies in the United States, are reviewing contracts at the $100,000 level? And if they would, what would the board of directors say to them?
The first year you're there, if you don't do it, you should be fired. You should know everything that's going through. You should do it with your staff. You should teach your staff how to do it, and then you should delegate them to do it once you've taught
he
them.
worked in a
You don't do
6-person
it,
real
you're
estate
abdicating
office,
your
okay?
responsibility. That's how I view it.
That's
That's
his
how I ran my
fucking
business
Well, let's
privately,
I
and
get
that's how
him
I'm going to run the
confused with
government.
Witkoff, so
I'm
Well,
responsible for our
let's go
fucking
ahead and get
pedigree.
those 5,700 contracts done.
There are not,
This
under
weekend?
any circumstances,
How
any
about this-
contracts
how
sitting
about
there.
this
There are
weekend?
none.
Can you
None.
get it done this weekend? Work overtime with the gang
Yeah.
and get it done?
There are
Because-
no contracts waiting for me, and if there were, I'll be there all night tonight, making sure they
there's
get turned out
5,700,
with my
you
team,
stupid
teaching my
fuck.
team how to do it.
Right.
Fucking
No
idiot.
budget cuts.
This is dumb.
I'm
Reed, you
echoing what's
fucking
been said
failed on that
before.
one.
But NOAA is
You
a
fucking
key aspect
failed.
of our whole society. Farmers plant based on NOAA weather.
Oh no, he's Cantor
We
Fitzgerald.
do research
I'm so
so that
dumb.
we understand changing
I'm so
oceans,
dumb.
et cetera.
Cantor Fitzgerald, that's
and
right.
this cut, as described by Craig McLean, who was served as NOAA's top scientist during the first Trump administration, has said in his quote, the proposal to slash NOAA funding by nearly 30% would take us back to the 1950s in terms of our scientific footing and the American people. And I'm echoing what's said by many other people. You're going to destroy NOAA. Well, that's consistent.
Under no circumstances. We have
Excuse me.
2,100 meteorologists, and 120 retired this year, and we hired them back. I was able to have them exempted from the hiring freeze.
Wait, what?
We care about meteorologists. We care about hydrologists who do the rivers and the ponds. So we are fully staffed with forecasters and scientists. Under no circumstances am I going to let public safety or public forecasting be touched. But I tell you what we did cut. We did cut programs writing children's books for climate anxiety.
Don't-
Yes, that was in NOAA. And you agree with me, that's not part of our mission. Our mission is to forecast. Our mission is to protect. Our mission is to advise. Our mission is to research, not write children's books on climate anxiety.
How much money did you save there?
We saved tens of millions of dollars
On
of
books for
nonsense
children?
out of NOAA. Nonsense out of NOAA.
I hate this so
I want
much.
to also associate myself
I
with
want
those
to
comments
punch
made
my
by colleagues
computer.
about the MEP program. we
Reed,
find it to
you
be very
are
effective.
so
And the notion
disappointing
that,
in this
oh,
moment.
We're not going to repeat what we did 10 years ago, et cetera. It's working.
This is
In
really
the
dumb.
U.S., it's been estimated in FY24
Sorry.
that MEP secured $5 billion in new investments and created and retained 108,000 jobs. It's worth the investment. And this notion that, oh, we have new techniques, yes, we have AI, et cetera, but we have very common things that businessmen look for, like how do I establish my financial relationships with banks? How do I get this new equipment, which is not sophisticated AI, it's machine tools.
I don't
and
know,
how do I
Muskie.
do that? MEP does this.
It's a great
Thank you
question.
very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now recognize Senator Kennedy, the senator I was been so anxious to hear from. We'll see if I was right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you,
You're
Mr.
not.
Secretary, for being here today.
Wait, hold
Mr.
on.
Secretary, I think I'm like most
Hold on,
Americans.
it's taking me a
I
minute to find it.
agree with some of the things that you and the White House have done on tariffs, disagree with others. It's clear to me that the president listens to your advice about tariffs. So I want to spend my precious time trying to understand how you think.
There you go.
If Vietnam, for example, came to you tomorrow and said, okay, Mr. Secretary, you win.
He's not the trade
We're going to
representative.
remove all tariffs and all trade barriers. Would the United States please do the same? Would you accept that deal?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That would be the silliest thing we could do.
Why is that?
Vietnam has a $125 billion exports to us and imports from us $12.5 million. And you're thinking, Vietnam exports $125 billion?
I'm aware of the figures, but tell me
But where
why
do they
you-
get it from? They buy $90 billion from China, then they
Yeah.
mark it up and send it to us.
So
Oh
you
my
would
just a
God,
pathway of
capitalists?
China to
What the
us.
fuck?
You wouldn't accept that deal.
No, it's a terrible deal. We're the one with money. We're the one with the
then
store. Of
what's the
course they want us
purpose-
to
We're
take
not the
What's
down.
the
store.
purpose of reciprocity?
We're not the
then?
store. We're a
Is
service
reciprocity
economy.
not one
Look
of your
it up.
goals? Are you telling the president that we shouldn't seek reciprocity? If that's what you're telling him, why are you trying to do these trade deals?
What do
Well-
we want? We want to encourage Vietnam to produce products they're great at producing.
But I want to get back to reciprocity. You just said you
You
don't
want them
believe
to
in it.
not
You don't
import
accept
from China?
reciprocity
Wait,
as a
what?
goal. What are you negotiating in these trade
But
deals?
why would we
then?
open our bank account and
What-
their bank account when
Why are
ours is
you
10 times
negotiating
bigger?
trade deals? You're trying to get other countries to lower their tariffs and trade barriers in return for us lowering ours.
That's true for the
reciprocity.
things that they'll take from us.
That's called reciprocity.
Of course.
Reciprocity.
So are you or are you not seeking reciprocity in these trade deals?
Reciprocity.
We are absolutely
it.
seeking reciprocity
No, we're
with
seeking
respect
it.
to
That's
things
right.
that can be reciprocal.
But you just said
But when they're
that
importing
if a
from
country-
China and sending
You
it to
just
us,
said
they're
that
not.
if a country came to you
I
and
say-
offered you the ultimate reciprocity,
Really is.
no tariffs, no trade barriers,
No, let Foghorn
in
go.
return
He's doing
for
a
us
great
doing
job.
the same, you would reject that.
Of course, because they buy from China and send it to us.
Proceeds off.
Don't you agree with
Suppose
me?
they said we won't buy from China.
Proceeds
Now we're
off.
talking. Now we're
Would you-
talking.
would
If
you
it was
accept-
Vietnam,
would you accept that deal?
we would consider it. For what things? For
what?
What would you want to
products?
change?
Yeah, what do you want
Well,
to change?
there are certain products we want to reshore. We don't want other people making them. We want to make pharmaceuticals here.
right.
We need to protect
let
ourselves.
me-
we
from
don't
let me
certain-
ask you
because
this,
of
'cause I'm gonna run out
environmental
of time.
concerns, but of course those don't matter to them.
Are trade deficits, are you advising the president that trade deficits are always bad in every situation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you are.
When are trade
Your whole
deficits
fucking-
good?
Trade deficits, for instance, let's say there was a company that had the cure for cancer. Let's call it Cancer Cure. And we were buying it and it was located in another country.
Okay.
We would obviously have a trade deficit with them because they have the
what?
only one of it. An example, our technology companies, our great technology companies, we're the only ones
So a
with
trade
it.
deficit is okay
What?
if they're products we really need.
If they're the only ones with it and we can't do it, then of course it's fine. But if we can do it, then we darn well better think about whether we're supposed to do it and whether we want to do it and if it's in our interest as a
Well,
country to do
here's
it.
what I'm getting at. I've heard
You know, I
you
think I
say
heard
that
that too,
trade.
Karen.
Well, strike that. I want to go. I'm running out of time. I want to come back to another subject.
Wow. I mean, Foghorn has stepped up in this moment.
Tell me your understanding of the
Not
Trade
probably for the right
Expansion
reasons.
Act.
I don't have a really good understanding of the term. I may know the act, but I may not know its title.
You're not familiar with the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 that gives the president almost unlimited authority to impose tariffs so long as you conduct an investigation? You don't know about that?
Oh, my 232s, of course I do.
Okay.
Sorry, I just didn't know the title of the plan, but of course I know.
Why didn't you advise the White House instead of proceeding under other statutes? Why didn't you advise the White House to proceed
he
under
okay?
the
Somebody
Trade
checked on him.
Expansion Act?
The president chose IEPA because he could do it swiftly and he could do it sweeping in order to address the underlying problems that had created the $1.2 trillion trade deficit that was haunting the United
Have you
States of
read
America.
the opinion in VOS selections, VUS?
I have.
What role does the major questions doctrine play in that decision?
I am not a lawyer, so I can't speak to it with that kind of precision. That's a litigation that's under current investigation.
Are you familiar with the major questions doctrine?
Not offhand, but I did, of course, read the decision.
Well, about 3/4 of the opinion is on the major questions doctrine.
Again, I tend to not know the title. I know the topic and the details of it, but I tend not to focus on titles. Sorry.
I'm way over. Thank you for your.
Can I just give you some data? Thank you, Foghorn. You actually really pleasantly surprised me this morning. I really appreciate that. Okay, can I just show you something? I'm sorry to interrupt this really compelling testimony. But I need, you know how I am. I need to have you look at this, okay? Because I am a little unclear. All right, so this is, let's see, ycharts.com. So, you know, whatever, just a group of indicators, blah, blah, blah. Because I said, what is the trade deficit right now? And because that's what they're trying to lower is the trade deficit, right? How much we import versus how much we export. And this is the chart, and you can even see with its very small, let's see if it'll do, oh no, whoops, I didn't want to do that. You can see that this is, let's see, what is that? July 2024 is this point. July 2024. Trade deficits. This is a year, about a year ago, I guess. Oh, wait, I don't know what that's. Oh, this is 1 year. Okay. So September, November, January, February, or January, I guess the end of January, February, March. The trade deficit as of the end of March was 140.5 billion. I'm not sure how they measure them, but whatever. The same period the prior year, let me go down to it. March 31st, 2024 was 68.55 billion compared to 140.50 billion right now. Isn't that going the wrong direction? I mean, I don't claim to understand. I don't understand. But anyway, I just thought, facts are fun. Okay. Sorry to do that. But yeah, anyway.
Your indulgence, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Kennedy, thank you. Senator Shaheen.
Thank you,
Jean
Mr. Chairman,
Shaheen.
and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here today. In your exchange with
Karen.
Senator
I'm not sure how
Kennedy,
that
you were
works.
talking about Section 232, which is really supposed to be used to help national security, but it is under
See,
the
Jen, when
jurisdiction of
people
the
aren't
Commerce
shitheads,
Department, as you
all of a
pointed out,
sudden
with respect to
it's okay.
tariffs. Well, last month I visited a New Hampshire company that makes ball bearings for the aerospace industry, and I agree we should be protecting the aerospace industry in this country. It's our biggest export in New Hampshire, aerospace parts. They were very concerned about the impact of the steel tariffs on their ability
Yeah,
to
do
get ball
Starlink to get
bearings.
a deal.
They said not only has their cost gone up,
Probably not right
but
now.
the lead time to get the steel to make the bearings, they only have one domestic supplier, while they had suppliers in the Indo-Pacific and in Canada. Those have been eliminated under the tariffs. They said that their lead times have gone from 20 weeks to 2.5 years because of the tariffs. I think this creates a real challenge with respect to our national security. About a good percentage of the work they do is with the Department of Defense. It's in the defense industry. So before expanding these tariffs, did the Commerce Department work with the President to evaluate the impact to our national security supply chain? And have you coordinated with the Defense Department? This is an issue that I've also raised in the Armed Services Committee with the Department of Defense because they don't seem to be aware of what the impact is on the defense industry of these tariffs.
Of course.
You did consult with the Department of Defense, and
Of course.
And what was the determination about how you address those kinds of extended lead times for companies that are producing equipment that's critical to our national security?
It's really a cost issue, not an access issue.
Well, not according to this company in New Hampshire. It's an access issue for them.
Well, that would be illogical since it's just a tariff which is monetary. It's not a sanction. It's just a monetary one. It would be
Well,
more
it affects their
expensive.
ability to get the product, though, to get the steel that they need.
No,
yeah,
it changes
well,
the price point, meaning if you're trying to buy it cheaper, the idea for the administration
Well, they
is-
don't think, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just going to tell you what this company in New Hampshire has told me, and that is that their lead times have gone from 20 weeks to 2.5 years. And at that rate, it's hard for me to understand how we can continue to support our defense industry when we don't have the ability to get the supply chain that they need to operate.
The big issue is you can't fight a war without steel and aluminum production in America. You have to be able to make it. If you don't have the ability to make your own steel and aluminum, you can't fight a war. And that is what the president's doing. He's
Excuse
trying to
me?
make sure that we
Sir.
make sufficient steel and aluminum
Excuse
to
me?
protect our defense
Which
industry.
I
is
certainly
exactly
support.
what you're
I'm
saying.
sure all of us support.
Sounds like we exactly agree.
But I don't agree on the way it's being done, because we're not going to have the steel that we need immediately to provide the supplies that we need immediately. So we need to do a little better planning before we put in place those kinds of tariffs. But I want to go to another
And I
issue.
can explain offline how the steel works, but it goes to a spot price. It doesn't change supply, it just changes price. But we'll go over that offline.
Oh,
Well,
boy.
Let me just say, the company that I've been talking to in New Hampshire understands how it works. And they have a problem. They don't need you to explain it to them. They know because they've been in business for years. But I want to go to the Manufacturing Extension Partnership because you suggested that this is something that has not kept up with the technology. In New Hampshire, they're
But he
doing
gets 50%
additive
of
manufacturing.
whatever
They're
their
doing AI.
resources
They
are,
are
right,
providing
Neil?
additional technology to help those companies. And so
I
I
think
just
it
want
is
to
butterflies. I was just
register my
looking at
support
that
with what the
earlier.
chair, the ranking member, and others have said about the importance of this program. For every dollar invested in 2023, it returned to $24.60 in new sales growth and $27.50 in new client investment. This is a program that makes a difference for companies in New Hampshire. And at a time when we've seen the third straight month of manufacturing decline in the U.S., it seems to me that we ought to be looking at how we can continue to support those industries and support a program that's been working. So I hope you'll take another look at that, and given the bipartisan support for it, that you'll decide that this is something that it's worth keeping because it's helping American companies. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You do know that my Office of the Inspector General cited the MEP as one of the most participating in waste, fraud, and abuse because the leaders of these things were just charging huge salaries for themselves. And one of these offices had like
please.
a 90% compensation ratio, and others had 60. So the concept is right.
So
but
here's the
I
headline
want you
right
to let
now,
our department
butterflies.
fix the waste, fraud, and abuse, and let's get back to its
Trump
core
administration
elements,
just doubled
which I think are
tariffs on steel
fine.
and aluminum.
So we're not
Here's what
arguing
that
about the core
means.
elements.
So I'll link
but
this
you need to do
article.
it correctly.
There's a
Well,
bunch of
if I could
articles
just
on it.
respond, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that there may be issues and that we should address those, and it would be helpful to have some transparency around that. I can tell you that in New Hampshire, the head of the MEP program is not making an inordinate salary because we watch that carefully in New Hampshire. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Mr. Secretary. Nice to see you. I appreciate the review that you're doing in the department over the programs that you have there, and as you try to make taxpayer dollars be spent efficiently. Looking at broadband programs, The broadband funding map continues to be a major priority of mine. The map tracks all federal dollars being used for broadband deployment, as you know. And the goal is to avoid redundant overbuilding and wasteful funding. However, we have had issues with agencies that do not collect or report this data consistently, if at all. By law, NTIA has a key role to collect this data from federal agencies in addition to submitting their own program data to the FCC, which houses the maps. Will you commit to prioritizing NTIA's work to support the broadband funding map and ensure that these dollars are optimized?
Sounds smart, yes.
Thank you. Are there any other areas where you think that NTIA's broadband programs can maximize funding to make sure that they meet the intended purposes?
We are hard at
Sure.
work rigorously pursuing
Sure,
the details of NTIA to make sure it can be the most efficient and effective
Oh, okay. That
along
means
the
we're-
lines that you're
we're gonna
discussing
just cut
about
some shit from it
telecommunications, both
randomly.
access and capacity for growth in America.
You and I have talked about the BEAD program in the past, and I know you have your work cut out for you in reviewing that program, especially with all the red tape that the Biden administration created for that program. Do you have any
God, she just
idea
sounds
on
like
the
a cunt,
timing
doesn't she?
for revising those BEAD program rules?
Funny how people's
Yeah,
voices
so my
can really just,
expectation
like,
is
give
we
you a
will put out
feeling.
the notice of funding opportunity, the NOFO, shortly. And then we would expect everyone to apply within 90 days.
guy is worth
We're going to
$3.1
hold it
billion
hard at 90 days, and then I'm going to
according to
hold my
Forbes.
department firm that within 90 days, if those applications are done without regard to favoring one technology over the other, just make sure we're giving the benefit of the bargain. What's the cheapest way to get broadband to these people, the most efficient way to do it? If they make that application, we will make all awards by the end of this year. So you had the Biden administration sitting on it for 30 months, right? And you're going to watch us distribute
Okay.
the money and get it out the door, provided the applications are,
Oh,
let's
that's the
say,
woman whose husband
technologically
refused to shake
agnostic.
Kamala
Just
Harris.
do the right thing for the American people. Let's get the broadband to
that
the
makes
people
sense.
for the most efficient way, and we will put out the money.
I'm excited
why
to
isn't
see
it already
broadband
happening?
deployment
I'm very
take
confused.
place
What is
to
their
areas
job?
that receive no service. We have a number of companies in Nebraska that are able to do that through the Universal Service Fund, through the BEAD program, to be able to get that connectivity out to these very sparsely populated areas. There's a vastness to my state as to others here. To be able to have that happen, the mapping, back to the mapping, is extremely important.
anybody
But
gonna
also
ask
to
him about the
recognize,
sale
I
of
think, the
land, of
investment
federal
that
lands?
many of these companies in my state and in other
I think he has
states
something to say
have
about that.
made
Why don't
and
they ask
have
him
been
about that?
required to make. So I hope you will take that into consideration as you look at
right, I'll
reaching
BRB.
these unserved areas, primarily unserved areas that need to be focused on. Will you commit to working with many of us here that face those obstacles in order to make those opportunities available to our citizens?
I'd be delighted to work with you, so I understand your concerns and that we focus on them.
Great, thank you. You have many bureaus and you have many programs to cover in making sure that the department uses taxpayer dollars efficiently. And among these are key grants that support Nebraska's development districts. I was pleased to see that they all received their grant approvals this week. That greatly assists our rural communities across the state. As we move forward, can these development districts rely on consistent communication from the department about their economic planning grants?
Communication should be at the top of our list, so that sounds like an excellent goal and strategy for us to try to achieve.
I appreciate the openness you've had with my office. I hope that continues with all members of the Senate. so that we can work together. You have an important job. You cover many, many, many areas. You have a broad jurisdiction, and it's very important that these things get done and happen in a reasonable amount of time. So I thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Fisher, thank you. I'm going to follow up, Mr. Secretary, and just make a point to your response to Senator Fisher's question about the BEAD program. We have many small companies in Kansas and across the country who've applied for BEAD grants. They've done through their state office.
Yeah.
And I hope they don't have to reapply again, refill out the application that they've spent a lot of time and money preparing and has been filed and approved with the state already. So we certainly need the reforms and changes the criteria, but there's a very expensive process they've been through once before. So please take a look at how you expect a reapplication. That makes sense?
Holy moly, Carla.
Yes.
Good morning.
Remember, the key point for me is that the American people get the benefit of the bargain, and we are focused on getting rid of the stuff that's not broadband access, so just all that sort of noise and other things. And then literally, as long as the application is technologically agnostic, meaning does it matter if it's fixed wireless or fiber? The answer should be whatever's the most efficient way to solve that. I want to do that, and we will get the money out the door by the end of the year.
Nothing you said do I disagree with. In fact, I agree with fully. Just trying to point out there's a bureaucracy that's taken place in the past that we do not want you to replicate.
I will try to reduce it. I promise that is my objective.
Thank you.
I will definitely try to reduce it.
We're joined by the Vice Chairman of the full committee. Senator Murray is recognized.
Thank you very much, Chair Moran, Mr. Secretary.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. You know, over the last few months, I am deeply concerned because we have seen mass firings at NOAA that are really seriously jeopardizing the weather forecasting that we all count on. Funds have been frozen, grants and contracts have been abruptly canceled, and agencies that were created by Congress in a bipartisan way have been shuttered unilaterally, really ignoring the law and sweeping thoughtful tariffs that are crunching small businesses and raising costs for our families. And we have seen President Trump illegally block some emergency funding House Republicans included in their year-long CR, which has cut off funding your department counts on for trade fairness, export controls, NOAA satellites, and more. So needless to say, I don't think any of this helps advance the department's mission to spur economic growth and strengthen America's competitiveness, and it does leave me very seriously concerned about whether the department is going to be able to carry out its job. Now, before I turn to my questions, I do want to quickly raise your decision to cancel $48 million in Tech Hub funding for the American Aerospace Materials Manufacturing Center in Eastern Washington and Idaho, alongside several other hubs. We've had a chance to talk about this yesterday, but I want you to know I have a lot more questions than I think you answered. This hub is really a partnership of industry, academia, military, governments at all levels. Canceling that funding and further delaying progress at the Tech Hub really damages our defense industrial base and limits our ability to compete with China, as I told you yesterday. So that is unacceptable, and I look forward to you resolving that as soon as possible.
Okay, we have not canceled anything. And just to let you know, I do have, since we discussed it yesterday, I do have the $220 million. We did draw it down before the date it was due, and we have the funding for the tech hubs. We are going to fund the tech hubs.
Okay,
I have the funding, the 220, right? And the additional 280 comes when there's a forward auction. But I have the money. We will fund them. I'm not canceling them. I just need to make sure they do the benefit of the bargain.
I appreciate that. And as I said yesterday, we need an answer.
Just need to make sure
that everybody understands is critical.
There's always
now,
a
I do want to ask you while you're here, one of the agencies that you oversee is NOAA. It is absolutely essential to supporting sustainable fisheries, protecting our natural resources, and making sure that we have accurate weather forecasts. Cutting away at NOAA, as you've been doing, and as your budget proposes to do further, is going to do serious harm. Among other cuts, your budget would completely eliminate the Pacific Coastal Salmon Recovery Fund. That would be catastrophic failure. It would abandon our communities, our tribes, our industries who rely on salmon. And across the Pacific Northwest, salmon are not just fish. They are a way of life, and they are foundational to our economy and our culture. So I would like you to explain quickly why you proposed that cut. And I want to ask you, did you consult with our tribes or fishing communities who count on it before making that decision?
The issues are that we do the same thing in multiple ways in NOAA. We have not cut any hydrologists, which are the people who study the
But you
water.
you eliminated the Pacific Coastal Salmon Recovery Fund. That is what I'm precisely asking you about.
Well, I think
Did you talk to our tribes or our fishermen before you did that?
Of course.
Well, I have spoken to
Of
the tribes.
course.
I've talked to the scientists.
When?
I've talked to the fishermen.
Prove
no
it.
one in the Pacific Northwest supports those cuts. And I want everyone to know I will
ask
not
him who he
vote
met
for
with.
an appropriations committee or appropriations
Bring
bill
the
that
data.
eliminates that funding. Now, staying on NOAA, facilities
your
like the Northwest Fisheries Science Center, which is in
Filofax.
Seattle, are really in dire need of investment. For this reason, this CGS Appropriations Committee has long
retention department.
included
Good
language
idea, Max.
requiring the Secretary of Commerce to include the cost
No,
estimates
because
for
this is a
NOAA
Democrat
construction
deal.
projects of more
So
than
no,
$5
he
million
won't be doing- he won't
in the
be
congressional
extolling
budget justification
salmon
materials,
praise.
as well as the 5-year cost estimates for those projects. Are you aware of that requirement?
My understanding is we filed our budget according to the CR with exact precision.
Well, have you submitted the department's
sounds exactly like you
FY26 congressional budget justification? It did not include the list of projects.
My
Which is
understanding is
required to
the CR had certain obligations for us, and we followed them with precision. That's my understanding.
The fact is
precision.
that you are required by law to submit the NOAA PAC construction list to Congress with the budget. That wasn't done. Can we get that list by Friday?
I'll happily take a look at it, and if it's required, of course, I will send it in.
Oh, my God.
It is required. Mr. Secretary, I wrote a law, it was called the Digital Equity Act, to help close the digital divide, and it passed with overwhelming bipartisan support. Now, the administration has arbitrarily canceled billions of dollars
that
for the
was just a
Digital Equity
cartoon,
Act,
Karen.
claiming it's unconstitutional. This is a program that every state, Democrat and Republican, has applied
cartoon.
for. Every single state in the country. It distributes laptops in Iowa. It helped people get back online after Hurricane Helene washed away computers and phones in western North Carolina. It's a program in rural Alabama where they taught seniors, including some who've never used a computer, how to use the internet. I wanted to ask you, has the Supreme Court declared this
Well,
bipartisan
don't show
law
them YouTube,
unconstitutional?
for Christ's sake.
Has
No,
any judge?
it'll go through the courts, and the courts will decide.
No one has declared this unconstitutional. No one. Your job, Mr. Secretary, is to carry out the law that Congress has passed. You don't get to keep laptops from our kids because the president doesn't care about rural communities, kids in rural communities. My advice to you here, it is a law. It is not unconstitutional. And I would urge you to get those digital equity dollars out the door and save everyone the legal fees because the law is very clear.
I hear you.
Okay. I just have a few seconds left, and before I
he'll
finish, I
say
do want
anything,
to underscore
okay? It
my
doesn't-
state,
it's
Washington
not-
State, is one of the most
He
trade-dependent
doesn't
states
give
in the
a
nation.
shit.
40% of our jobs
about
are
these
connected to
senators.
international trade. And President Trump and your
my
department
senator. She's
continue
good.
to pursue this chaotic tariff policy that business in my state stand to lose billions of dollars. I have heard from businesses across my state, from manufacturers, from small retailers. They are struggling to absorb the cost increases on everything from napkins to car parts. And this uncertainty has really left them scrambling, which has delayed investments and caused serious supply chain disruptions, especially at our ports. These actions, in addition, have really harmed our relationships with our key allies like Canada. Heard Senator Collins here earlier talking about Maine's being their neighbor. It is our neighbor in Washington State. They are one of our biggest trading partners. And let me be clear, this is causing chaos, disruption, anger, and we have got to get this resolved because farmers, or our people and our small businesses and our communities are
Patty
really
Murray.
hurting. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Senator Murkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, welcome. I'm glad to follow the ranking member as well as the chairman of the committee in talking about fisheries. You know, I'll never disappoint you. When you come before the committee, we're going to talk about fish, and I appreciate what you have shared with Senator Collins about the administration's desire to protect our fishermen. We're pleased with the executive order relating to American seafood competitiveness. I had an opportunity just yesterday to visit with one of
Anita, how
our
are you?
seafood industry
Not Anna
leaders in the
Vinci.
state of Alaska. I thought we were going to be talking about some of the tax provisions that are included in the reconciliation package, but he basically said, if we can't deal with the trade issues when it comes to Alaska's seafood, we're not even going to need to worry about the tax pieces because the trade implications are going to kill us. In Alaska, Russia has declared war on Alaska seafood, and they have been very direct and very open about it. They are using their dominance in the seafood market to really help fund their war against Ukraine. And the effort is one that we are looking at and needing to make sure, I mean, really desperate to make sure that the administration fully understands the implications of what is happening right now. We've got the largest federal fisheries in the nation, about 60% of America's harvest by volume. Seafood processing is 70% of Alaska's manufacturing employment. The Alaska seafood industry generates $6 billion in economic output for the state. It employs 48,000 people in Alaska. Right now, we have Secretary of the Interior and the Secretary of Energy and the Administrator of EPA up in the state, all focused on that aspect of resource. But the other great resource for our state is our fisheries, and they are in peril. I would ask for your commitment to sit down with leaders of the Alaska seafood industry, those important stakeholders, so that we can talk about a path forward on some of these issues that are really harming our industry right now. Can you give me that commitment that we can work with your team to identify a time to do just that?
Why don't you organize it, and it would be my pleasure to come and do it together with you. We can all do it together so we can make sure every topic is on the table and we address it, because our trade policy is out to protect our fishermen, which are a key resource of the United States of America. We are on it. We know about it. I know all about the Russian issues. They've been attacking us for years. This is nothing new, sadly, but let's do it together. And this administration is on your side and is on it.
Excellent. I look forward to that, and we'll be working with you on that. A couple more issues. There's been a lot of discussion about NOAA and the budget cuts, as well as with the impact on the National Weather Service. We've been working with the Secretary of Transportation, Secretary Duffy, about aviation safety. We're going to make some headway. There's good support within the budget now to do that, but we have a connection here with the Department of Commerce in that the automated surface observing systems, the ASOS systems as they are known, which provide for the aviation safety, are managed by the National Weather Service. So right now, we're looking at about a 40% staffing shortage, and I've heard what you've said to other colleagues about, you know, you're not cutting in key areas. I need to make sure that we are looking critically at the National Weather Service staffing in Alaska to make sure that we are not compromising in any way the systems that are vital to transportation, commerce, and safety. We need them to stay operational. So if you can just commit to me that you'll look at that.
Sounds sensible to me.
Another one that works on the safety side, and again, it ties into our extraordinary oil resources. We have to move that oil by ship out of Valdez. It has to go through Prince William Sound, and they rely on the National data buoy center to manage not only the buoys there in Prince William Sound, but over 1,000 buoys that are operated by both domestic and international partners. Right
Oh,
now,
somebody picked up their
we
vodka.
have a buoy, the Seal Rocks weather buoy that's right
Cheers.
outside of Valdez. But the tankers can't leave
It's an old
Valdez
classic,
unless
the Lolo's
they get
Lounge
the
coffee
wave
mug.
height information from the buoy,
Actually
the
really
weather
like this
buoy
coffee.
that's sitting out there, right? This buoy's been out of commission for months, and we're told it's due to funding for operation and maintenance in NOAA's budget.
It's really old.
Hi,
It
Amy.
is
Needs
How
to
are
be
you?
replaced.
I
Oh
don't
my
care
God, if
how
I showed you what that
that's
looked
sad.
like,
Let's-
you and I would hold
I
our
wish
heads
you
in
more
our
baked
hands.
material.
We all look at them, and the problem is, it's not just the buoy out there at Seal Rock. It is this system, this constellation that is designed to be the information source, the protectorate for the safety. So let's work on this. But I highlight,
Gotta modernize it. We've got
highlight
to
because we've got some work to do. But it all knits together.
Okay, this is another time. I don't want to, I am oversimplifying this, so please take this for what it is. It's an oversimplification. But through all the reading, through all the watching, through all the stuff that I've seen so far, I feel fairly confident in saying that the plan for this administration is to AI the fuck out of existing usual federal government programs, which is why they haven't needed as many people, because their plan is to break it and then AI it. And that is why Elmo is fine leaving the administration, because he's got all the data he needs to feed his XAI. And I don't know what'll happen with OpenAI with Sam Altman. I have no idea if those guys are fighting, not fighting, if there's a piece for someone, but another piece for someone else. I don't know. But AI is their gamble. AI is their gamble for bringing manufacturing back. It's not going to be millions of jobs. And so what they're doing is they are gambling with everyone's future, hoping that they can get through this time where they tear it all down, right? So that they can split it up, privatize it, and charge a fee. So, and hey, I am not actually a tech phobe. Like, I think AI is here. We've got to deal with it. But even that's why I listen to the people who help develop AI, because I want to understand from them, the people who know where we are in the AI cycle. I want to hear from them about where they think the capability of AI is. And they have said very loudly that it's not there yet. Generative AI is not perfected, or whatever their term would be. And so I just don't I don't know if people realize the implications of the overwhelming reliance on AI to run functions within the government, within obviously corporations and industries, but more so the government, led by these clowns. Yeah, the AI that puts beards on belly dancers. Yeah, that AI. So restrict regulating AI. Yeah, Anita, I don't know much about that bill. Who introduced that? I can't recall. I thought I just heard something about that. So anyway, I guess what I'm saying is I think that we need to. I think as like a failure for this kind of time that we face is that certainly none of these folks are really like looking just ahead a little bit in terms of, well, when Howard Lutnick says 3 times at least in a hearing that AI is going to solve the problem, shouldn't we be asking him more about what is going on? I don't know. It just seems really odd to me. Anyway, sorry. Here we go.
So I've highlighted a couple of specific
Promise you're in
instances.
it. We're in it together. I promise. I agree
won't make
with
you go out there if you'll commit to be.
Funding
I can't.
just seemed overly generous, and the Office of the undercharge. We are going to
Go back to
allow
the Democrat.
Concern
the Department of Commerce made.
Go out there if
is worth improving and saving. American innovation and patents. I
Sorry.
have 4 different areas I want to touch on. AI chips, patents, the PTO and IPEC, Manufacturing USA, and the MEP. Let me briefly in one sentence say, I agree with comments made by members of both parties that the Manufacturing Extension Partnership is worth improving and saving. And I look forward to working with you on it.
Certainly
I've seen it in
coming
the
from these
field.
people.
I've
Yeah, it
seen the
has been
impact
true
it can
for you.
have.
You're right.
It could be modernized and focused, absolutely. But in my state, they delivered cyber tools to small manufacturers, and they've delivered state-of-the-art support. 1 down. 2, AI chips. What's your sense of the importance of AI to the 21st century? It's my sense that it's going to redefine our economy, our security, and our place in the world. And what's your sense of where U.S. advanced AI chip manufacturing stands relative to the Chinese right now?
So I agree with you that AI and the AI industrial revolution is our revolution in our lifetime. It is the industrial revolution of our lifetime. America has invented all of the great chips.
And how many chips will we make versus the PRC this year?
Currently, we're making 200,000 wafers, right? And we have demand of 10 million. Now, the chips deal that I made with TSMC, the Department of Commerce made, increase that, we'll have 1.2 million wafers. 1.2 million wafers. So we'll be at about 12% of our demand.
And how
It's
much will the
woefully
PRC,
inefficient.
How much will the PRC make this year of advanced chips?
They say they're making them, and they are not. Okay, they do not have. We have restricted the tools.
Well, then who's making
to
them?
make the highest quality chips?
And I think, look, the FT reports that they're making fewer than 400,000 chips.
Yeah, I
maybe
think
less
probably
than that.
closer to 200,000.
So
right.
let's say it's 200,000 of the most advanced chips being made in the PRC, millions in the United States. Let's just agree that this is bipartisan, sustained over 2 administrations, and critical to our future, because we want the most advanced frontier AI compute to be in the United States, the most advanced models to be in the United States,
butterflies,
and
I
this to
hadn't seen
drive
that.
this century for the United States. So
I agree.
my concern
exactly, Teresa.
is that the diffusion approach of the previous administration, the AI diffusion rule, that mandated more than half of AI compute be located in America, has been set aside without, to my knowledge, a clear replacement. And I'm concerned about the deal with the UAE and what it means if we provide to the UAE a significant quantity of chips without a clear path for a greater amount of compute to be here in the United States. Could you just tell me how you see this new deal? I'm concerned that we are at risk of dependence on Middle East compute rather than U.S. compute, given some of our real challenges. And I don't agree with the argument that's been made by others, not by you, that if we don't provide these chips to the UAE, the Chinese will. How do you view that point?
So number one, I agree, and the administration agrees that compute, more than 50% of compute must be on our shores in America. So we completely agree. The deal with the UAE said if you buy a significant number of chips, you will invest in America and build data centers in America for an equal amount of chips. So that investment must be dual there and here. That's required. The AI diffusion rule was very confusing in that, for example, the Prime Minister of Poland hunted me down and said, what did I ever do to you that you have me as a tier 3? And, I'm part of Europe. What are you doing? And it was illogical. It was hastily rushed through at the very end of the Biden administration. Our view is we are going to allow our allies to buy AI chips provided they're run by an approved American data center operator, and the cloud that touches that data center is an approved American operator. So we control it while it's over there.
Given the shortness of time, thank you. I look forward to working with you on this. I think it is absolutely critical. You spoke with another senator, Senator Shaheen, about the urgency of retaining steel and aluminum for our defense. AI compute is going to be absolutely central to our defense.
Absolutely.
You made a comment earlier. We want to make pharmaceuticals here in response to, I think it was Senator Kennedy. You're familiar with Manufacturing USA?
Yes.
One of the things I was pleased to see was that it retained level funding.
Way to go, Paul J.
There are institutes around the country. There happens to be one in Delaware. Are you familiar with it? It's the National Institute for Innovation in Manufacturing Biopharmaceuticals.
Yes, it is.
And it is 2-to-1 private sector match for government investment, and is on the verge of demonstrating a new way of manufacturing at scale pharmaceuticals in the United States.
Regulation by
states, critical to our being competitive.
Both of you.
I'd love to talk to you about that in more detail. My last point quickly.
Yeah, butterflies.
I agree that there are too many unexamined patent applications. PTO fee diversion in the past has robbed the Patent and Trademark Office of critically needed resources to hire more and better examiners, to reduce the backlog, and to improve that speed. I have a bipartisan bill with Senator Tillis that would permanently prevent fee diversion, which increases the backlog. Would you work with me to support that?
I'll be glad to work with you. I think the Patent Office is one of the least understood and most incredible value for the United States of America. I think we undercharge. The fact that we have our amazing judicial system, that you can have access to it for $2,000. $2,000. And the U.S. judicial system should just do whatever you want. Seems extraordinary. Now, we want the price to be low so that the inventor can come in. But over time, I think we should have more money, and I think that's something that we're going to talk about. So I want to make sure we capture the benefit as well as the cost that's coming from the Patent Office.
There is a long-standing but underutilized capacity, the Intellectual Property Enforcement Coordinator, that is meant to corral IP enforcement across the administration. I'd also like to talk to you about why I think that should be funded and why we need some function like that, no matter how configured.
I look forward to talking to you about it.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Senator Merkley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I believe the chairman has already raised the issue of the manufacturing extension partnership. Last week, I met with about 20 small manufacturers in Oregon who had benefited from this, and they were telling me their stories of how much more they'd been able to increase their efficiency due to the expertise brought to bear through MEP. There are 13 MEP centers signed up to recompete their 10-year cooperative agreements. I don't think that process has been initiated yet. Are you planning to initiate that process soon?
Well, I have to sort it out with, I have the Office of the Inspector General has been really, had a very, very negative report. So we need to clean it up and we need to modernize it. So that's what we're working on. And then we're going to go forward, try to figure out what to do next.
Can you meet with those of us bipartisan fashion that have seen the powerful impacts on supporting American manufacturing by small businesses through MEP to maybe go over the Inspector General's comments and think about how, if we need to reform the system, we can reform it, but then we can get this renewal, this contract.
Well, that sounds like a great idea. I'd be glad to do that.
That'd
that
be
sounds
terrific.
great.
Sounds like a great idea.
I wanted to turn to the CHIPS world. To implement the CHIPS Act, Commerce signed contracts with American chip makers. But you have noted publicly that you are not planning right now to distribute the CHIPS award dollars even to folks who have satisfied the contract conditions.
I mean, you know.
So just to be clear, yes or no, are you currently withholding the funding to chip makers who already had these contracts?
I think the benefit of the bargain, there are numerous contracts that can be made better.
What?
For example, the TSMC contract had a $6 billion award for $65 billion of building, and then we were able to modify the award for the same $6 billion of funding, but $165 billion of building. I think commitments of 4% or less are more appropriate than a 10% funding. Just seemed overly generous and we've been able to renegotiate them. So if the question is,
Oh,
are
so
we
he renegotiated
renegotiating? Absolutely, for the benefit of the American taxpayer, for sure.
Well, I'll just
That kind of
note that I'm
smells.
concerned. I'm concerned because the whole goal was to reinvigorate American chip manufacturing.
Yeah.
And to some degree, you may be able to strike a better bargain, but at some point it doesn't become a better bargain, and we reduce the acceleration of our re-energizing
now I
the
wanna look
chip
at that
industry
too.
here.
God damn it,
I can't be
too much
more
stuff.
confident than if you spend time with us, you will see that
Oh,
all the
fuck
deals are
off,
getting better.
coward.
And the only deals that are not getting done are deals that should have never been done in the first place. But all the deals are getting better. Micron offered to go from 25 billion in commitments to 60 billion in commitments. I mean, the commitments of building in America are going better. We're just getting more value for the same dollars. So we are planning to distribute money only if we get much more building in America, which we both agree is.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Rabbit hole engaged. I'm just going to read this. This is a Reuters story from April. I hate everybody. You know what I need? I guess I need like I need like a fund for subscriptions. I should start a GoFundMe for subscriptions because I cannot afford that. Yeah, I can't. So, all right. But let me show you this. Okay. I'm in such a bad mood today. God, it's just terrible. All right, here we go. Show you this. Let me show you this. Not liquor is a huckster. Yeah, he is. He'll just say whatever you want to hear, but he does kind of slip in some nuggets once in a while. So he's kind of, he gives it up sometimes. All right, so here is a story about a lovely lady. No, this is from April, from Reuters, but I had to go through the archive. April 8th, TSMC, which he just referred to, which was part of the original CHIPS Act when the Biden administration passed the CHIPS Act. Remember, we even read a story last year about the work that TSMC had been doing in Arizona because they had built a chip factory and it was, like enriching the community and blah, blah, blah. There was like this big story about it we read. So here you go. But in April of this year, TSMC made chips for China's so-called Huawei's. Okay, here we go. TSMC could face fines. Wait, sorry, hold on. Get a little smaller. Boop. Oh, stop. Right. Okay. TSMC could face a penalty of $1 billion or more to settle a U.S. export control investigation over a chip it made that ended up inside a Huawei AI processor, according to two people familiar with the matter. The U.S. Department of Commerce has been investigating the world's biggest contract chip makers work for China-based SOFCO, the sources said. The design company's TSMC made chip matched one found in Huawei's high-end Ascend 910B artificial intelligence processor, according to the people who requested anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly about the matter. Madison Square Garden, what? Huawei, a company at the center of China's AI chip ambitions that has been accused of sanctions busting and trade secret theft, is on a U.S. trade list that restricts it from receiving goods made with U.S. technology. TSMC made nearly 3 million chips in recent years that matched the design ordered by SOFCO and likely ended up with Huawei, according to Leonard Heim, a researcher at RAND's Technology and Security and Policy Center in Arlington, Virginia, who is tracking Chinese developments in AI. The $1 billion plus potential penalty comes from export control regulations allowing for a fine of up to twice the value of transactions that violate the rules, the sources said. Because TSMC's chip-making equipment includes U.S. technology, the company's Taiwan factories are within reach of U.S. export controls that prevent it from making chips for Huawei or producing certain advanced chips for any customer in China without a U.S. license. Time said that based on the design, which is for all AI applications, TSMC should not have made the chip for a company headquartered in China, especially given the risk that it could be diverted to a restricted entity like Huawei. I don't know if I'm saying that right, so forgive me. Carla's here. She's here somewhere. Or she was. Penalizing. Oh, yeah. Okay, so let me just skip to the chase here. In March, TSMC said at the White House, remember that it plans to make a fresh $100 billion investment in the United States that includes building 5 additional chip factories in the coming years. So here's the interesting thing. Howard just said that they went from a $60 billion contract, I guess, to $160 billion. Isn't that interesting? So was this like extortion? I don't know. Did they use that to get the extra money out of TSMC? I don't know. A spokesperson for the Commerce Department declined to comment. TSMC spokesperson Nina Kao said in a statement that the company is committed to complying with the law. She added that TSMC has not supplied Huawei since mid-September 2020 and that they are cooperating with the Commerce Department. No public action has been taken against TSMC, but typically Commerce issues a proposed charging letter to a company it believes is engaged in prohibited conduct. And so I just find this very interesting. Anyway, I'll link that. Sorry for the diversion.
It's
Continue,
totally
Howard,
in the
Net
interest of
Liquor.
America.
Well, I hear your point. I will say that when companies find when they put a lot of work into striking a deal that contract then is up for renegotiation down the line, that also kind of discourages folks from being able to rely on the contracts that they've struck. So I'm just registering concern about that and hope the rest of the deals that were struck, if they can be renegotiated to the favor, I hope they can be done and we can proceed, because I don't want to slow down the work that
remember
we
Foxconn,
invested
Max
in a
says?
bipartisan fashion
Absolutely.
to reinvigorate chip making here in the United States.
Something's rotten in
you.
Denmark.
I wanted to turn
I'm gonna say.
to the tech hubs, and the
circus
department has
music.
canceled a number of, well, I think quite a few of the Tech Hubs awards, and maybe it's a similar situation. I think you're planning to recompete them, correct?
Correct.
And in doing so, are you committed to a full and fair process with no discrimination against those who won in the first round?
Of course.
Absolutely, great.
Of
I
course.
appreciate that. I'll
What?
tell you, the microfluidics
What did I just
hub
promise?
in Oregon, the challenge of cooling chips is such a key part of advanced chip making, as the many more layers
No, but cat GIFs
are
might-
added
they might help.
to try to reach the maximum amount. And that's such an important technology for the future. And so I can tell you the community in Oregon was very excited about
Yeah.
the investments they've already put into this strategy. And I think it's I know that they were very competitive the first round. I'm sure they'll be very competitive the second round, but I just want to put in a word of how important it is that technology continue to be
Pretty good to get
pursued
$100 billion
aggressively.
investment
I
in
look
lieu
forward
of
to
a
reading it.
$1 billion
Thank you very much.
fine.
Senator Britt.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, it's wonderful to have you here today.
Give you another example of how we can
Sorry.
use tariffs. We want peace. We're not out for good. You're telling people if you rip us off, you're going to pay a price. Stop poisoning America. Stop cheating. Stop closing your markets.
That's
Now,
not cheating.
Do you know that China and India buy 70% of oil from Russia?
I do.
Do you think it is helpful for China to buy cheap Russian oil to keep the Putin war machine going? Is that a good thing for China to be doing?
Doesn't sound good to me.
Oops.
Good.
You're making
I'm
him
going
talk
to give you
about
another
Putin?
example of how we
Careful.
can use tariffs. We want peace.
You're not funny looking.
We're not out to humiliate Putin, but we want to stop the killing. To China, You're propping up Putin's war machine. You're the largest purchaser of his cheap oil. You're providing
Karen, I
component
missed that.
parts to his military. You want to be normal? Act normal. We have legislation
What's
in
wrong
the
with
Senate
him? What's
that
wrong
would have
with
put
it? I
a
don't know.
500,
I'm not
make
sure
you
why
look weak, Howard.
This
500%
person is
tariff
screaming in the hallways.
on any country that props up Putin's war machine. And we'll have a carve-out for any country helping Ukraine.
You're
good to
too
go.
great.
So
Thank
China,
you
if you
so
want to avoid
much.
tariffs, help Ukraine.
Have a wonderful, I'm sorry, I don't want to have that. Thank you so much, Muskie. You're so kind. You didn't need to do that. We need a song. We need a song. That's not a song. That's yeah, this is much better. In fact, I'm just going to let him talk, but I'm going to turn
This
him
is
down.
coming.
Yeah. Keep going. Oh, Muskie! You are so silly. You're silly. I love you. Man, you're so silly. I hope you get all of it just out and out and out. Look at all our friends have gotten things. I'm so happy. Look at everybody we like. Everybody that we like is getting memberships. Woo! That's so great. I know. It's okay to have it turned. I have it turned off too, by the way. Ah, thank you. You're sweet. It was very kind. You didn't need to do that. I love you. I know they're all our friends, though. It's really great. Yeah, I know. I get it. I keep mine turned off. Oh, are they done? Oh, it's my favorite part. You have it turned off too? Thanks, Muskie. Have a good appointment. Adore you. Thanks. I know. What a great song. What a great song. Thanks, Muskie. You're the sweetest. You didn't need to do that, but you're a sweetheart. And yeah, it's people I like. I like everybody. Val got one. Anita got one. Spin got one. Scott got one. Elizabeth got one. Kim got one. SB. That's so nice. I think that's so great. I've never seen that happen when it's like the entire list is people that, number one, I think I know. There might be a couple people I don't know in there, but they're so great. That's so nice. A circus tent graphic over the hearing screen. Oh, I need a circus tent. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Oh, wait. Van Hollen. We like him. Hold on. Hold on, Van Hollen. I'm gonna hook you up. Get mad. Ask him all your... Oh, no, I don't want you. And I don't really... Okay, here we go. Go, Van Hollen. Rip him a new one.
An era in UAE-China relations. I think it would be helpful,
If you
Mr.
hit
Secretary,
join,
if you could provide,
Carrie?
if you haven't already, and I don't think you have,
If
if
you
the
hit
administration
join, then you
could transmit the
It's in there.
text of the agreement with the UAE, including the side letters and security annexes to Congress before any licenses are issued. Can you commit to doing that?
I'll just follow whatever the rules of the State Department are. But I'd be happy to go over it with you privately.
Whatever
but
rules
if you
they
want it
came
to be
up with, I
public,
don't know.
I'll just let the State Department decide how they play those things. That's for them
Has
to decide.
anybody
not
asked
me.
why
Yeah,
Steve
I think
Witkoff and what about his
it would
plane going to Russia? And is
hopefully
his plane like
allay
full of
some
bugs now?
concerns, and I have some very
Anybody
big
else wonder
concerns
about that?
the agreement, as I currently understand
do.
it. But I look forward to seeing it. I just want to point out that the Republican-led Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party said last year about a much smaller deal that was contemplated by the
Yeah,
previous
wonder.
administration involving UAE, and I'm quoting from that Republican-led select committee, quote, "An agreement of this significance must be properly vetted by both Congress and the executive branch." They also called on the National Intelligence Council
Graham and
to provide
Blumenthal
Congress
doing a bill
with
on
an
the
official
tariffs.
assessment of the
Thank
risks
you, Teresa.
posed by the deal between Microsoft and G42. And they went on to say only once the agreement has received this level of scrutiny should the U.S. government allow it to move forward. Do you think that was good advice from the Republican-led Select Committee, Mr.
I don't know what the topic they were addressing was, but
Well,
this was done in the whole of the administration, talking through it, and it's not a legally binding commitment. It's a framework on which to pursue things.
I understand that. I think the concern is that we make sure that we lock down the terms, at least that we understand the terms, or Congress has some information about the terms as we go forward. That's not unreasonable.
I got to remove the
No,
background.
as I said,
from
I'd be
that.
glad to go over it
Here we
with
go.
you, but if it's that you want me to transmit it, I think the State Department would have to say that's okay, and that's just their prerogative.
I don't know.
Understood. Quick question on the Patent Office. And I agree with Senator Kuhn's comments and yours as well about the importance of the Patent Office. I've also been concerned about
Is he bringing info to Russia?
DOJ
yeah.
getting
Oh my
access
God, Jane, I never even
to,
thought about it that way.
unpublished patent
Does he
applications.
have diplomatic
That's not
immunity? He's an
No.
envoy.
No, not happening.
That's
Okay.
just no, and I gave a little laugh of no. You
Okay.
heard all that.
So you can provide 100% assurance
No.
that that's not happening. Okay.
100%. No.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I appreciate that because that would be obviously of great concern. So look, I look forward to the chance to get together. There are lots of statements you've made over time. I'm not going to take the time today to interrogate you about them all. Although I do want to ask you this one question. I assume after yesterday you're no longer advocating people buy Tesla stock.
It was on Jesse Waters. He showed arsonists burning cars and attacking a company. Then he showed Tim Walz literally attacking Elon Musk's stock. Yeah. Not the man, not the product, literally his stock. And I just thought, a terrorist attack on a great American stock seemed to require a response from me. And that's why I
understand. Mr. Secretary,
It doesn't.
I think probably you would agree that Secretary of Commerce probably should not often be offering suggestions on stock purchases, but I'm going to leave it at that.
Exactly.
I'm not going to go through
Really,
some
you're
of these
not
other
going to
statements
just okay. All right.
today. I do want to end, and I'm going to pass it over to the chairman where I started. I do hope that at least from our experience so far in the first 4 months, when I say ours, I'm speaking at least for the Democrats on the committee, that we can hit the reset button with you and the Department of Commerce. And I would welcome the chance to sit down with you and go over all of these issues because we've got a budget to deal with. We hope that we can resolve it. I'm going to be working in good faith with the chairman. So can we get together and go over a number of these issues I've raised and some that I haven't?
Be my pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Will you commit?
I think you've been truthful to that last sentence.
Okay, I'm done with this mass masturbation session that we're having. Oh my God. Oh my God. So I do what I have actually. So we have a twice baked today at 11 because wow, it's just one asshole after another. Nut Liquor was this morning, and then we have the other asshole, what's his name? Russ Vogt. Russ Vogt is testifying in a couple of hours. So I think what I'm going to do actually is actually, I'd kind of like to read these articles before we go. Hold on. Because if you recall, we started with the Gaza situation. And it made me kind of go, oh my God, I hate you, USA Today. It made me kind of it gave me pause on that situation, not understanding the, yeah, I want that on my Libby Lib record. Exactly. So I have a couple of stories that I want to share. I think actually I'll start with this one, The Guardian, because it's a pretty good, I believe it'll kind of orient me at least into what is going on. Because it feels like this Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is quite an interesting organization, and I want to know more. So let's do this. I want to read this article, and then I am going to be coming back at 11 a.m. in a couple of hours too with Russ Vogt, because I like to ruin everybody's day. I guess I don't know. So I feel terrible, but here we are. Okay, so this is from The Guardian, and it is from, what was the date? Oh, yeah. Okay, so actually that was just yesterday. This is June 3rd. So I thought this was interesting. Israel-backed Gaza delivery group names U.S. evangelical leader as chair. Johnny Moore, also an advisor to Dump, named chair as group tries to recover resignations, which hopefully they'll elaborate on, because I want to hear about the resignations, Jack Wood or whoever it was. So I kind of want to understand that. The other group I want to understand, in addition to this Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, is who are the U.S. security contractors that are in the middle of this that I believe are part of the problem in terms of Palestinian people dying when they're attempting to access the food distributions that are happening through this foundation, which, just to catch you up, usually the UN was the one going into Gaza, etc., and moving aid around the country. And this group, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, is now taken that over, and the UN is cut out of providing aid. Okay. And they are doing it at like 4 locations, right? 4 locations in Gaza, which means that people have to walk miles in order to access what little aid is available. And this morning, the Humanitarian Foundation ceased operations because it's unsafe. So there's a lot. And we're not going to unpack all of it in this session, but at least I want to get some information out there because I don't understand it myself, and I want to understand more. So we're going to understand together. Johnny Moore, that name sounds so familiar. Also an advisor to Trump named chair. Okay. An evangelical leader and advisor to Donald Trump on interfaith issues has been appointed the new head of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation as the controversial U.S. and Israeli-backed initiative attempts to recover from top-level resignations during a tumultuous rollout last week. Johnny Moore, a member of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom and founder of the boutique advisory firm Kairos Company, was appointed the new head of the GHF after Jake Wood, a former Marine, resigned, saying that he could not guarantee the GHF's independence from Israeli interests. I'm going to read that again. The head of the GHF resigned, saying that he could not guarantee the GHF's independence from Israeli interests. Moore has been a vocal defender of the GHF, who has bristled at public criticism of the rollout, telling UN Chief Antonio Guterres on X that reports of Palestinians killed and injured while seeking aid in Gaza was, quote, a lie spread by terrorists. Major partners continue to abandon the GHF, which was launched with vocal support from U.S. government officials. Boston Consulting Group, a U.S. consulting firm, said it had canceled its contract with GHF on yesterday, amid growing media scrutiny into the group's work and sources of funding. Oh, really? So you got caught, Boston Consulting Group? Or is it that you didn't ask the right questions in the beginning? I find that so hard to believe because you're all so fucking highly paid consultants. I find it impossible to believe that you didn't ask the questions before accepting the contract to consult with them, you fucking craven bastards. In a post on its social media, the GHF announced that its distribution points would be closed on Wednesday for update, organization, and efficiency improvement work. The group did not give more information on improvements it's intended to make. Operations would resume on Thursday, the group claimed. In a statement, Moore launched the GHF's reported delivery of more than 7 million meals in the last week, numbers that haven't been independently verified, and also took aim at media reports about murky finances and chaotic rollouts of the aid distribution centers in Gaza. Local health officials said that at least one person was killed and more than 50 people injured on May 27th when Israeli troops opened fire on the second day of operations at GHF Distribution Center. Quote, the GHF believes that serving the people of Gaza with dignity and compassion must be the top priority, Moore said in a statement. God, they'll just say anything. They'll say anything. And people will be like, oh, okay. Oh, well, that's what he said. We welcome others to join us and urge extreme caution against sharing unverified information from sources that have repeatedly issued demonstrably false reports. Bullshit. Bullshit. GHF believes that, blah, blah, blah. False reporting of violence at our sites has a chilling effect on the local population, and we can think of no greater disservice to a community in dire need. A biography on the Kairos website calls Moore a noted evangelical friend of the State of Israel and says that he has played an important role in the U.S. outreach to Middle Eastern governments. Why? Who are you? How do you speak for our government? Including the conclusion of the Abraham Accords to normalize relations between Israel and Arab states. John Ackrey, the acting director of the GHF, said that Moore had a proven record of principled leadership and hands-on humanitarian work. I mean, yeah. And sometimes I sing okay. You know, like, well, all right. But Moore's positive experience working with major charitable organizations will make it difficult for him to refute criticisms about the GHF's lack of independence and experience dealing with a major humanitarian crisis, which is what the UN staff are actually trained to do. When I went to Stanford for a program for nonprofit leaders back in 2011 or something like that. And what you do was you had 3 weeks and you basically went through a bunch of Stanford Business School, courses and learned about different things. And one of the things we learned about was we did an exercise about moving people through a refugee center. And we had teams, and you would be tasked with basic information and be charged with creating the people moving plan, just the one piece of logistics. And we literally learned about where failures come into that. And I'm going to be honest with you, I had been running like nonprofit, smaller organizations. Let's see, 2011. So probably for about, 15 years at that point. So I thought, I knew some things, but this exercise completely humbled me. Because just like everything, there are so many factors when actually implementing this work on the ground that's why you have experts do it. And it is peak insanity to think that you can look at a program from afar and decide its worth or value. Okay. Sorry, I'm really mad about this stuff. The Boston Consulting Group, which was reported to be handling key logistics planning, abandoned the project late last week. And a representative told CNN that unapproved follow-on work relating to Gaza lacked buy-in from multilateral stakeholders and was stopped on May 30th. Boston Consulting Group has not and will not be paid for any of this work, the organization said. The group also told reporters they'd placed the employee responsible for overseeing the project on administrative leave pending an internal review. Wait, so this was like a rogue? This was a rogue project within the Boston Consulting Group? Excuse me? How's that happen? I've worked with like consulting groups in the past, Deloitte, McKinsey, or whatever the fuck they are. They don't do things by mistake. Are you kidding me? There's not just one person in charge of a project. Are you kidding me? The Washington Post, which first reported on BCG cutting its ties with the GHF, said that the consulting group was instrumental in planning GHF's operations. 3 people closely connected to both the GHF and Boston Consulting Group told the Washington Post that it would be difficult for the foundation to continue to function without the consultants who helped create it. In addition to helping develop the initiative in close coordination with Israel, BCG set the prices for paying and equipping the array of contractors who built 4 distribution hubs. Okay, that's far less than what the UN was doing in southern Gaza to deliver the aid. And they're forcing people to leave parts of Gaza and forcing them by putting the distribution centers in certain locations. They're forcing the migration of people. And that, I believe, is in anticipation of razing Gaza to the ground and building a parking lot. And I'm talking about making the song reference. Anyway, so that's that story. I do have the Washington Post thing, which I'll link because it's got a paywall, but you could probably plug this into the archive. And this is the story of BCG. So I'll link that in the description. And then this is this is what I wanted to read too. This is from Alliance for Philanthropy and Social Investment Worldwide. Okay, so this is looks like a trade publication probably for nonprofit, alliancemagazine.org. This is from May 29th. So this is a little information on U.S.-made Gaza Humanitarian Foundation led by security firms under investigation as it conceals funding. So I want to read this perspective and see what's going on here. A privately funded foundation run by U.S.-based security firms, described by humanitarian groups as a blueprint for ethnic cleansing in a startling open letter, is under investigation in Switzerland. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, chosen by Israel to distribute aid in Gaza on Tuesday while all humanitarian agencies have been blocked, has been widely condemned by nonprofits, human rights groups, and lawyers who say the so-called foundation is weaponizing aid. The scheme, which pre-screened Palestinians in Gaza, has in effect taken over operations run by UN humanitarian relief programs. Trial International, a Swiss NGO, filed a request for an investigation after the U.S.-led scheme registered itself in Geneva. The request asks authorities to investigate whether the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation adheres to international humanitarian law and Swiss law. Humanitarian groups signed an open letter against the GHF, a project led by politically connected Western security and military figures, coordinated in tandem with the Israeli government, and launched while the people of Gaza remain under total siege. It lacks any Palestinian involvement in its design or implementation. This is not a logistics problem. It is an admission that the plan includes displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, or worse, the abandonment of more than 1 million people to famine, it warned. The group shows no record of how it is funded. There are links to 2 U.S.-based security companies. UG Solutions. Hi, welcome to Wake and Bake, where you actually hear about the news before it happens. Please like, share, and subscribe. It's free. And Safe Reach Solutions, both part of a shell company named as Wyoming wealth management firm Two Oceans Trust, LLC. As reported by France 24, former CIA paramilitary chief Philip Riley runs Safe Reach Solutions and was behind the operational plan for checkpoints in Gaza's Netzarim corridor, while UG Solutions is managed by former U.S. Special Forces soldier Jameson Gavoni. Remember him? We talked about him. For both, I have a feeling people don't watch because I'm so pissy. That's probably what it is. I may have cracked my own code. Whatever. Proposals seen by French media also show the so-called foundation monitoring food delivery into Gaza down to the last calorie and the last grain of flour. In plans shared with journalists, the foundation said it would open 4 distribution centers, reaching just 60% of the current population in a small part of the enclave. Quote, that might keep enough people fed to avoid the IPC's arcane threshold for famine, which requires 20% of the population to fall short of certain measurements for access to food, malnutrition, and elevated death rates. But it would be gaming the system, not preventing widespread starvation, said Alex Duvall, Executive Director of the World Peace Foundation of the Fletcher School for Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University. The head of the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, condemned the new United States-backed aid model in Gaza, saying it is a distraction from atrocities by the Israeli armed forces. And this is why Israel wanted UNRWA out, because they were telling the truth about what's happening on the ground. So if you recall, from the jump, the Israelis have been trying to shit talk UNRWA and point out and, create kind of like controversies and all that kind of stuff. They destroyed it. And here we are. But she laughed too much. Israel has imposed. Can you imagine if all we had to worry about right now, except instead of like rights being taken away and deportations and all that kind of stuff, if we only had to worry about stopping Israel from ethnic cleansing of Palestine, if we had to fight our government for their support for Israel, and if that was one of our singular focuses, can you imagine the change we might be able to affect? But no, we're dispersed now. Now we have to fight dozens of battles that are all equally important and imperative. Tell me how that's better. Unless this is some great reset that you support. And fuck whoever doesn't make it through the reset. Wow. Israel has imposed a total blockade on the 2 million Palestinians in Gaza for the last 11 weeks thus far. UN aid is rotting and decaying at the border, with Israeli armed forces blocking entry. Before the blockade, UN aid agencies gave out vital supplies from around 400 locations. 400! 400! Worries over GHF's ability to distribute aid fairly came to a head on Wednesday when one person was killed and 48 were injured at the security firm's foundation distribution points. The UN Human Rights Office says most of the injured people sustained wounds from gunfire. I'll link all this. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just like, I need to just ignore everything. Anyway. Well, thanks for hanging in there. 13 people. I love you. Share the links. If nothing else, I don't care if anybody watches the show. I really don't. But at least share the links out of the stuff that we read, because I think that stuff's pretty good. It's not all great, but it's pretty good. I don't care. As long as the information gets out there, I don't really care. So I'll see you guys in a couple hours. I'm going to go chill and eat some breakfast and, rethink my life. No. Okay, I'll see you guys later. Thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry you had to go through Howard Nutlicker. I really am sorry about that. Ugh. Apologies. I love you too. I love you guys so much. Thank you. You're wonderful supports to have, and you don't have to. You don't have to be there, but you are. So I appreciate you. Thank you. And thanks, Muskie, for the juice, for the coin, dropping the coin. I appreciate it. I love you guys. All right, I'll see you later. I'll see you in a couple hours.